Hey everybody, hope you are doing awesome today. We're going to be going over a few different topics to help you grow your agency. My name is Wade Galt. I've worked with insurance agency owners for over 35 years now, helping them grow their agencies. Some of that's through compensation strategies, some of that's through software, a few different other ways I help people. And what I'm going to do is share with you today strategies around helping you grow your agency. And the first thing we're going to start with are strategies that have to do with how you set up your agency so that you're going to grow it. So there's this concept that I share with people, and it's called building a dynasty. It's about how you set yourself up to grow your agency in such a way that you're aligning with what naturally works for an insurance agency. An insurance agency is different than a lot of other business models. There's certain ways that you can grow it, and there's certain ways that work best for it. And so what we're going to do first is talk about how you best build an insurance agency dynasty. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is just at any time, if you want, feel free to enter questions in the comment section. I'll keep an eye. You might be watching this. There's a few different places you can be watching this. You might be watching this directly on LinkedIn. You might be watching this on YouTube. There's a couple different places. Feel free to interact and ask questions. And depending on what sort of a computer you're on, you might find it easier to interact, let's say, through the app, through the computer, through your phone, whatever works best. But what I'm going to do, as I mentioned, is just help you as best as possible to understand how to grow your agency in a way as if it's a dynasty, as if it's done in a way that aligns best with how that agency was really built, the nature of the business model, aligning in such a way that you naturally take advantage of what works best for an insurance agency, rather than just simply randomly growing it or doing it in a way that is like a generic business aligning with what it does. So what I'm going to do here is just bring up the slides here. And actually, I'm going to put me here. In fact, don't even actually need me in the center here. Let's just keep this on focus on the presentation. So building your insurance agency dynasty. This is all about how insurance agency owners can staff profitable multi-line insurance agencies that are great for decades so you never have to retire. Now, this is something that a lot of people, when I talk to about what they want to do with their agency, they'll talk about the long run. And well, I might close it up, Wade, in 10 years or 20 years or 15 years or whatever it might be. If you run your agency a certain way, that's not going to be necessary. And we're going to share how you can do that. In fact, let's do that. That'll just add a little bit of thing to this. All right. So first thing to consider is that there are two primary objectives to help you grow your insurance agency. Number one is to get your renewal agency staffed profitably now, regardless of whether you have great production or not. Even if you don't hit your company goals, we want you to be a business owner. If you are in a situation where you're constantly having to drum up all the sales, you're not really a business owner. You're more of an employee. You're a glorified employee, and your name might be on the door, but you're still operating like you're an employee. We want you to be the business owner. And then second is to create a profitable growth plan for your agency in the future so that you can grow your agency off of that. So put simply, it's about being profitable and making money, even if it's at a smaller income level, and growing that rather than going ahead and growing it as quickly as possible, but constantly being in debt, being behind, or waiting on company bonuses to save you at the end of the year, and then trying to make up for things. And so I want to share with you a very simple analogy that is very relevant for this. And it has to do with how you leverage your time and how you use the team members and the talent you have. So I'm going to use a simple analogy to correlate basketball and sales. Every time in basketball you have a shot opportunity, it's like you have the ball in your hands and you've got a chance to score. In sales, that's like you have an auto or a home sale or a condo sale, some sort of PNC sale, and you have this opportunity to multi-line. In basketball, the scoring is when you put the ball in the basket, and in sales, scoring is when you get some sort of multi-line sale if you're a multi-line salesperson. And then if you take your baskets made divided by the shots taken, that's your shooting percentage. Well, if you take your multi-line sales divided by the number of auto fire sales you make, that's your multi-line percentage. So let's say you get a chance, let's say you have 10 sales that are auto and fire combined, and of those 10 sales, you make one sale that's a life insurance sale, I'm going to tell you that's a 1 out of 10. That's a 10% multi-line ratio. On average, a extreme beginner is maybe multi-lining about 5% of the time. A pretty good beginner is at 10%, more experienced is 20%, and your stars are more at 30%. Well, put simply, some people can score, some people can multi-line, and others can't. And they're just better off playing defense, doing service, doing renewals. Those with the highest scoring percentage, the highest shooting percentage, sales conversion ratios, I want to give them the most amount of opportunities. So I want to give them the walk-in sales. I want to give them anything that comes to the agency because they can multi-line it better than anybody else. If you as a team member cannot score, if you cannot multi-line, I'm ultimately going to stop giving you the ball. I'm going to give you the ball less and less often. And if you cannot score or defend, well, then you don't really have a spot in the agency. And this is the part, to use the somewhat crude basketball analogy, just because you can't score doesn't mean you can play defense. Just because you can't sell doesn't mean you're great at service. You might be poor at both of them. So you can be a star, you can be a franchise player, you can be an all-star player, you can be a role player, but I need to know what I'm getting from you, and you've got to be consistent and great in that role. And your number is going to let me know who you are and what you are. So, of course, your results will show me whether you're a salesperson or not. So what a lot of agency owners do is they'll start out and their agency looks something like this. They have 4 what they'll call generalists, and they'll say, wait, my team members are generalists. And say, what do? Well, they're all doing auto fire life health. And that's their perceived role, but what's actually happening is usually 1 or 2 of them are doing the auto and fire, and they're selling some multi-line. So at the top there, these 2 are doing 10 auto, 10 fire, 2 life, and 2 health. And so they're actually multi-lining about 20% of the time. So that's 4 multi-line sales over 20 total. And then the other 2, they're also, let's say you have an alphabet split, so they're taking care of a quarter of the alphabet each, but they're not making any multi-line sales. And so they're, by the definition of a salesperson, they're really not doing too well. They're not multi-lining well. And so what I would rather do is say, look, let's get clear about these roles here. If some of you all can actually make multi-line sales happen, I'd rather have you be this multi-line expert, and I'm going to send more of the business your way. So with that same 40 auto and 40 fire that was coming in. So again, to go back a screen a second ago, we had 40 auto and 40 fire coming in, but the agency owner had to write some of the life and health because these 2 at the bottom weren't doing it. Whereas in the second situation, we're giving as much as possible. In the real world, maybe it's not 40, maybe it's 38 each, but we're giving 40 of the auto and 40 of the fire to our 2 people who can multi-line. Their same multi-line ratio of 20%, now they're each making 4 life and 4 health sales. So the agency's getting 8 life and 8 health without the agency owner's effort. And what I'm doing with the other 2 is having them focus on retention and being awesome for retention. And I'm going to have their compensation situation reflect that. And so this is probably one of the most important things to consider here is everybody wants team members that are generalists. If you're a basketball coach, to go back to that analogy, it's great if everybody can do everything. But in reality, you don't always end up with a team that can do everything. So we want to be looking at what the team can actually do, and we want to staff accordingly for that. And so from here, once I get this level of balance and I want to grow it, the next role I'm going to look for is what I'm going to call a PNC growth expert or an auto fire growth expert. And this person's job is simply to focus on auto and fire growth. Their job is to be all over anything that has to do with stirring up PNC sales. So unless somebody's out of the office, other team members are away at lunch, this person in green is not going to write an ad on auto. They're not going to write an auto that walks in the door because I want this person to make sales happen. See, I already have a certain amount of business going without them. With them selling, then I can grow it. So when they can reach a point where they're adding, let's say, even 20 PNC or up to 40 PNC a month, then what I can do is hire another one of them and eventually stir up enough business where not only can I perhaps, depending on the size, hire some more retention experts as the agency grows, but now I can go to a more high-level client review specialist, somebody who focuses on really doing deeper multi-line client reviews. So maybe those first two in blue are good at the pivot sale, and they can make an auto fire sale turn into a hospital indemnity sale or a disability income sale or a life insurance sale. But this multi-line ratio of 30% is usually going to come when we're doing things at a higher level. Now, this might be what the agent is currently doing. This is where we're looking at their assets, their liabilities, their income, their expenses. We're doing a discount review. We're looking at the whole picture. And so this person is delivering mini seminars. They're delivering full client reviews where they're really helping the client look at the whole situation. They're providing first-rate expertise. And so now, whereas the rest of the team is growing sort of from the bottom up, they're bringing in large numbers of people and converting them. This client review specialist, they're operating at such a high level that they're bringing in people at the top level. They're delivering at such a high level that people want to do business with them, and it's easy for them to develop referrals because they're delivering at a very high level. And then ultimately, the agency owner, if they can do this, would want to have somebody who's then helping them really just automate these results and be on top of these things. So some people call this an office manager, and to me, that's a term that's used in so many different ways. So I'll just simply say somebody that's making sure that the follow-through work's being done, the accountability is happening, all the reports that I need as the agency owner to make sure I'm on top of things are happening. And really what we're setting up here is a situation where the agency can grow based off of us having a system that allows us to, again, going back a few slides here, starting with role specification or specialization here. Even if you had said, wait, I have two team members, so I'm gonna have one be a multi-line expert and one be a retention expert. And then we're gonna add this person that's gonna grow the business. Now, of course, most of these roles that we're adding, until we hire this person, that's what you're doing as the agency owner. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you might continue to do these things. But as we build the team more, we can start creating a little bit greater specialization, a little bit greater detail as far as the results we're creating, and make it easier for us as the agency owner to either perhaps open a second agency or just simply do higher and higher level work. But most importantly, have the agency in a situation where you truly are a business owner. You're not required for the agency to run day in and day out. You're simply growing the agency at a certain level, and things are happening accordingly. And then, of course, ultimately, the business is running so well, and this is the definition truly of a business. If you go back to Michael Gerber and the E-Myth, business is something that really runs without you having to be there. And then we know that you're getting the results, whether you're specifically physically there or not, this is happening. And so this is what we want to be able to create. This is going to allow you that full freedom. And again, this is not about saying that you want to be an absentee agent or you don't want to be involved in the business. This is simply that level where now you can then say, okay, what's the next level? What's the next way I can grow the business? And let's say 10 to 15 years ago, that might have been something that was a luxury. Today, with what's going on with Elon Musk and Tesla getting involved in insurance, and Jeff Bezos and Allstate in Texas and other states getting involved in insurance, more and more we're going to have to deliver at a high level in order to keep our clients, in order to help clients realize that we're delivering something that they can't get through an app or through a call center. We literally have to deliver something more. And so what I'm going to suggest to you is, if all you're doing is doing P&C, if you think that model is going to keep lasting, maybe you're right, but there's so much writing on the wall saying that after so many years of us wondering when it's coming, that yes, especially because the millennial generation is more used to dealing with technology. The agent, the agency owner, the team member, the local agency is something that they can do with or they can do without. Give them a large enough discount, make it convenient enough, and maybe they won't do that. So we need to be able to show we're doing something at a higher level. And this sort of a system can allow us to do this as we build this dynasty and create a situation where you as the agency owner can be in that situation. It's kind of like retirement. You might not pull the plug on financial retirement and you might not stop working, but most of us would say, yeah, I'd like to be able to be in the financial situation to afford to do that. This is us creating a situation where you're in the business situation to be able to be semi-retired, enjoying life, enjoying family, friends, fun, whatever it might be. And a lot of this starts with us determining how many of each types of producer you would have in the agency. And so what I want to do here is a couple things. I'm going to share with you an exercise that you can do. And if you're looking on LinkedIn, there's a post in there that I put. I think it's the third post. It says, this worksheet is for our first segment today. And there's a link there. And there's a link to a tool that I'm going to show you how we help people look at a plan to grow your agency, how you grow that as a dynasty, and grow it in a way, again, that aligns with your business model. And so what I'm going to do here is you can pull that up. And if you can't pull it up, you can always get it later. But what I'm going to do is show you what this can look like and how we can do this. So if you hold on one second here, let me just share my screen for this particular window here. And so what we've got here is a tool that I like to use to help people get clear of how you're going to staff your dynasty, how you're going to make this grow in a way that makes it easy for you to know that you're growing your agency and yet do it in a way that is not stressful, that's not crazy. So this time of year, a lot of people are talking about what their goals are for next year. And very often the goal setting, it can get a little too micro-focused. And what I mean by that is, let's say you sold, I don't know, you averaged 100 sales a month, just as a concept. And so you might be talking with your sales leader, your sales manager, your MGA, whatever it might be. And the conversation is something like, okay, well, this year you did 100 a month. What's your goal for next year? Now, the easy goal is say, well, 105, 110, 115, whatever the number is. But there's also other variables. What's the market going to do? Are you going to be competitive or not? Are there other outside forces? And so for me, looking at your goals only being sales related is also very much just focusing on the results. Or as Stephen Covey in the 4 Disciplines of Execution might say, it's only focused on the lag measures rather than focusing on the lead measures. What are you going to do? Well, the simplest way I would describe to somebody how I can grow my business is if I said, look, this year, I have, and for this example, let's say I have 2 retention experts. I started a new agency, it's me and 2 retention experts. So I'm doing the auto fire hustling, I'm doing the multi-lining, whatever that might be. And I say my goal for a year from now is I'm gonna have at least a part-time person, or I'm going to get a full-time person that does auto fire growth, and maybe I let go of one of the retention experts and I get a part-time retention expert. But in other words, I'm gonna grow by just a half of a person. Not literally half a person, but in other words, a part-time person. And in this first year, the agency was grossing 200,000, and I took home 50, which was about 25%, what is 25%. And so I'm averaging about 25% of take-home income. And in year 2, I'm going to say, look, if I grow a little bit, I want to get up to 250, and I'm going to take home hopefully 75%. So I'm going to grow, or at least my goal is, to grow my profit percentage and then grow the agency. And then each year after that, all I'm going to look to do is see, can I grow a little bit more? So I don't need to grow by 5 people in a year. That's very difficult if I'm looking for keepers. There might be some years where you grow by 1 or 2 people, or if it happens naturally, great. But if I simply have this plan, in 8, 9 years, I've gone from having 2 retention people to now having 3 retention people, 2 auto fire growth experts, a multi-line expert, a part-time office manager. And when I say part-time, it could be that this part-time office manager, their other part-time is that they're a retention expert. It doesn't mean literally you're going to find a part-time office manager, though you can do that. There are some agency owners that will hire an office manager and they'll have that office manager work with 2 people. And again, whether you want to call them a results automator or however you like to look at their chores, their tasks. But in essence, what I'm looking to do is reach a point where each year, the agency's growing in income. Each year, I'm growing in income. The team is growing. And if you've done this for a while, it's not easy to add even a half a person per year consistently. That's not very easy because you're going to lose people sometimes. So we're going to have to replenish. But as you go forward, then we start getting the profit ratio higher. And even one of the things that shifted is when I made these slides years ago, or if you look on my YouTube channel and watch an original video of this, years ago, it was a lot easier to get a higher percentage of the profit ratio because there was just less competition. There was less competition from the tech industry and whatnot. Today, If you can take home 40% of your agency gross, you're doing awesome. If you can do more than that, even better. But if you're doing more than that, you actually might be missing out on the opportunity to hire higher quality people who could perform at a higher level, because salaries, not so much salaries, but bonuses and compensation results are going up. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But what I want you to be able to see is you have this ability to map out where you'd like to be. And so on this, if you see at the bottom here, if you're used to Excel, there's this tab at the bottom. And then this second tab, it shows where you can then create your plan and decide what is it that you're going to do. Where are you now? Where would you like to be a year from now? And just having this overall sense, to go back to this example, of just round numbers. And it's not to say you don't have these more precise micro plans, but this is going to help you be on top of what it is that's most important that you're looking to do and help you stay grounded in that without perhaps getting lost in some of the minutiae. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you have any questions in this, feel free to put them in the chat on LinkedIn, or if you're on YouTube, you can put them in there. I usually have the ability to see the questions, and if I can't, for some reason, if I don't, you can always shoot me an email. I'll be checking that in between here and there, and definitely after. And then one of the other things I want you to see is there's always the ability in this tool, and then I also put a link in the LinkedIn area, and I think I put it in YouTube, or if I didn't, to schedule a strategy session with me, which is to look at your agency and see what's going on and help us see how we can help you grow your agency, what sort of interventions that might take, and what's the best way to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here as far as the content, and I'm going to go back to my main window, which should have me here. And so what I'm going to ask you to do also is consider something, and this is something something maybe some of you all have seen, something maybe you haven't. So years ago, there used to be a binder, at least in the State Farm company, that agents would have, where they'd say, it said, why buy? Why should you buy State Farm? And as I've talked with agency owners in other companies, they've had similar or different things, but in essence, some sort of place where as the client would come in, they could house their policies. And if you think about it, when we work with clients, they're giving us a lot of money. And up until a couple years ago, all they were doing was walking away with is a piece of paper. Now they don't even walk away with a piece of paper. They get an email. So they gave us a bunch of money and they walk away with physically at least nothing. So first of all, having them literally hold something as they leave your agency is something that can be very powerful to anchor that, yes, they got something. But even more so, to be in a situation where if you can get clear, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later in the program, of what it is you do for them, how you help them look at their goals and dreams, find the money with discount reviews, help them look at their assets, their liabilities, their income and expenses, and look at their whole situation and help them realize that, again, yes, they might get a great rate on an app, on a computer app, or if they just want monoline insurance. But if they want something more, they're going to have to come to you. And what you can see here too is as you start using it with each of these tabs, they're either going to have in one of those tabs either their information, or there's going to be no information in there, and they're going to realize, wow, I have nothing in there. Or they're going to have a quote, or they're going to have policies that they've had. But what it makes it very clear without you having to say a word is, look, if you've got tabs and they got nothing behind them, you're either going to see a company brochure or something that suggests that you can contact me or our agency for help. But if you're seeing a bunch of empty tabs, it's communicating very clearly you're probably missing something. And I want to be able to communicate that to the clients, and I want to be able to help them understand that we're offering something more than they could get elsewhere. So what I'm going to do is just take a quick look through here and see if there's any questions. And again, this is being broadcast on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So I'm doing my best to make sure I don't miss anything. If I miss any of your questions in live real time, I apologize for that. I'm going to also pop in here and there on my email. And in about 5 to 6 minutes, we're going to start on our next topic, which is how you set yourself up to grow your agency in a way that is profitable, and how you pay off of base salaries that are profitable. And so what I'm going to do is move this presentation towards the back here and bring up that other presentation. And again, if there are other questions you have, definitely feel free to put those in the comments. I'm going to grab some oxygen here because I'm talking a little bit. So Hope you all are doing well. Some of you all are already clients that work with us, with whether it be the bonus system or the automatic insurance agency coaching. And again, I'm gonna do my best to share with you a little bit more about that. And again, if you have questions or want to look at your own agency situation, again, there's the ability for you to schedule that strategy session for us to talk about what's going on in your agency and how we can best help you do this. And so what we're going to be pivoting into now is this conversation of saying, look, if you have an idea of what your dynasty can look like and you now want to grow this dynasty, how do you make sure you pay profitably? So again, you have the ability to pull up that tool as far as the tool for the building the dynasty worksheet and how to staff that, so that you can get right off of LinkedIn. And again, if you can't get that, I can get that to you separately at another time. And now what we're going to do is go into the conversation around how you staff an agency in a way that's profitable. So what I'm going to do is give us a couple minutes here for anybody who has questions. I'm going to take one more look around for any other questions we have and make sure I'm not missing any. And what I also ask you to do, just so I can check this and make sure it's coming in through, if you are a client of mine, if you've worked with me at different times, if you wouldn't mind in the chat, just say hey and say where you're coming from or where you're at, where you are located. And let's see here. There we go. Awesome. Okay, cool. And if you haven't already, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll see there's a lot more content we're going to be doing in the next couple weeks. Next week we're going to be doing content around the multi-line sales process. It's going to be for agency owners and for team members. And the agency owners I've worked with most are the agency owners that are multi-line. I've grown up in the State Farm family. Most of my clients are either State Farm agents or career multi-line insurance agency owners that sell auto, fire, and at least usually life insurance, maybe disability or other lines as well. So a lot of what I'm doing is directed to that. It can help other people who are independent agency owners, but it's definitely targeted towards that. And so again, a little over 35 years now in this work, very familiar with this, and definitely see some familiar faces out there. If I could see, let me see if this, let me see who. Yeah, I can't see who, or maybe I don't know how to do this yet. I can't see all of who is here, but I know there are people here. So anyway, awesome. So what I'm going to do now is pivot this into a conversation of how would you make sure you're paying in a way that's profitable? And so I want you to think about this. If you have an agency, one of the toughest things that I run into with agency owners is, well, am I paying in a way that's profitable? And it's not so much of, am I throwing enough money at something? It's about making sure I'm paying in a way that is accurate. And so I was just even talking to another agency owner yesterday, and this challenge for this agency owner is that the agency has grown and there are team members that have been with the agency for quite a long period of time. And the agency is ready to make another jump, another sense of where it's going. And some of the team members are overpaid, and not overpaid in the sense that we don't value them, but they're being paid in a way that the results they're getting are not really commensurate with what they're being paid. And even more specifically, they're being paid a lot for one type of result, but they're actually getting a different type of result. And so what we want to make sure we're doing is set up a situation where people are being paid for the type of result they're getting, so that not only that it's fair, because that's a nice and a cool and perhaps a morally right thing to do, but because that's what's going to keep the people, the right people in the right chairs and not wanting to leave you. And it's going to create a situation where also the money's going to the right places. So put simply, a lot of the times I'll see agency owners where they are underpaying some of their retention team members, and they're overpaying some of their sales team members, and it causes resentment. It's not just because the numbers are bigger, but they're literally risking losing their best retention team members who are creating the environment that allow the salespeople to thrive. And so again, we want to make sure we're doing that in a way that works best. So now what we're going to do is look at how you can do this in a way that allows you to have these base salaries be as profitable as possible, but then making sure, again, that it's scaled and it's accurate. And the best way I want to start this is just to share kind of a basic concept. So if you owned a car dealership and you had the team members that work there, you've got your sales team members and you've got your service department. Now in a car dealership, and I'm going to oversimplify this, I'm sure there's a lot more nuance than this, but you might say, look, I've got my service team members, and my service team members are in the service department. They make an hourly income. They don't make bonuses per se on sales of a car, let's say. They basically, for the most part, are doing service or service-related things, and that's what they get paid. They get paid in hourly. And then separately, there's this other business model where these people who are car salespeople, and they're on the floor, the showroom floor, and they're selling cars, and they get a commission, and they might get a high commission. But here's what's going on. The service team members do not make a commission when a car is sold, and the sales team members do not make an hourly income for the service work being done because the salesperson, in this example, is not doing any service work, and the service person's not doing any sales. So if we apply that to our model, we'd say, okay, so there's kind of this pure model going on here that on one hand, they might be a pure service person, which case they'd have a base salary and some benefits, and we'd say, great, we're going to keep you in that role. And we might have some incentives based off of great service work, great customer retention, but for the most part, we'd say, okay, that's the retention person or the service person. And then this pure salesperson, if all they were doing was selling, they're doing zero service work, zero retention work, we'd say, look, I really don't have a base salary for you because you're not servicing anything. It's not a knock. It's the nature of what you're doing. The same way as if literally you had these two different businesses, you'd say, look, you don't work in the service department, so you don't get a base salary, and you don't work in the sales department, so you don't get a commission. And so if a person at that car dealership said, well, I want to have a salary and a commission, you might say, okay, well then work at the service department part-time and you'll get a salary, and work at the sales department part-time and you can earn commissions. And so taking that concept with us, what that allows us to do is then look at this through the eyes of profitability and what's real. And so let's say we have our team set up in this way, and I've got now a service-only team member. And when I say service, retention, they're keeping the clients coming back, which of course is very important. This person is servicing 150,000 of P&C renewal business. Now you might say, Wade, I don't even know how much servicing my team members are doing. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not sure. And I'd say, okay, that's definitely something we'd want to be able to know. We'd want to know, at what point is it the case that that person is either profitable or not, and you'd have to know how much business you're servicing. So this person's servicing 150,000 renewal business. And to keep life simple, let's just say that there's a certain customer defection rate or lapse rate, and they're writing walk-in business that replaces that. So they're just doing 150,000 year in and year out. So again, let's say 10% or 15% of your clients leave through no fault of your own or theirs, and then 10 to 15% of your clients come in to replace those just because you've established the relationship, the location, your brand. So again, this person is not aggressively seeking P&C business. It's coming to them and they're keeping that 150,000. And let's just say, and some of these numbers are a little dated, they're a little bit old, but let's say you were paying a $25,000 base salary. And let's say the cost to have that person sitting in a chair was $25,000. And what I mean by that is, in this example, I'm going to show you an agency with 4 team members. And so if the overhead of the entire agency for the rent, the electricity, the chairs, the water, the cable, the internet, whatever it might be, is $100,000. So each person, the cost of their chair is $25,000. So if I take that $150,000 minus $50,000 of investment, I'd say I have $100,000 of agency profit. And I'm profiting at a 67% level. And you might say, Wade, that's awesome. That's almost unheard of. And sometimes that happens. So our next example, we've got a person who is going to be doing service and multi-line. And what this person's doing is they are doing the servicing. So just like this other first person, they have a base, they've got overhead, but they're only able to get to 100,000 of P&C renewals. And so the agency's making 50,000 or 50% profit on this team member. And so in this situation here, what I've got is I'm still doing well. I'm making profit as the owner. I, as the owner, am keeping this 100,000 in red and then the 50,000 in blue, so long as I can keep these team members and the business sticks. Now, this multi-line salesperson, they're getting a bonus somewhere else, but we're not looking at that. We're just looking at base salaries right now. And if you look at it, one person I'm making a 67% profit ratio, one I'm making a 50% profit ratio. And then now when I go here, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, my office manager is servicing 50,000 of P&C renewals and they cost me 50. They're not making any renewal profit for the agency. But I might say, you know what, this works out for me because they're helping free me up. They're freeing up my time, my life, whatever it might be. And then this third person is a P&C rainmaker. They are a commission-only salesperson, or at least to word it more clearly, their job is to make P&C sales happen, even though there are no sales going on. So they're not working internet leads. They're not working the leads I already have. They are stirring stuff up on their own through networking, through going to BNI meetings. They're meeting with centers of influence. Maybe they're working my leads that are sitting there and nobody's working. But for the most part, they're stirring things up. They are not getting what some businesses call raw new business, because raw new business, if it walked in the door, again, my retention people can write that. If a person walks in the door, my multi-line person actually be the main person I'd have write that, going back to our last presentation, because my multi-line person will write that walk-in P&C business and have a chance to pivot to a multi-line sale. So this person is just stirring up P&C business, but because this is what's traditionally done, I'm paying them a $25,000 base, and I have this $25,000 overhead because they're working in the agency in this case. Of course, it's possible to have somebody work remote, but in this example, they're in the office. And so it should show us below. Technically, it should be, well, it's a negative number. The math is not possible to do, but I'm losing $50,000 on this person. And so when I put it all together, I've got 300,000 of P&C renewals on the far right, got some base salary and benefits of 100,000. I've got overhead of 100,000, and I'm making 33%. Now, overall, 33% as an agency owner, that's a decent number. But in each of these situations, there's some dangers going on. In the first scenario, the service-only person, actually, feel free to put in the comments if you like, what's the danger for the service person? What's the danger for the rainmaker? If you want, put that in the chat. And by the way, Joe, I see your question. Thanks for putting that there. Always love working with you. Yes, we'll be sharing I'll have access to the presentations after if you miss some of this or you get part of it. So I'll be sending out links. I'll post them here. If you're not sure, if you don't see them in a day or so, I think LinkedIn closes up what'll show here after a while as far as the event. So if you don't get it, you can always just email me, wade@smartbonussystem.com, and I'll make sure you get those. And I'm just going to do this here real quick for the videos. That lets me know to edit that part out. Alrighty. So the danger here for the service-only person is I might lose this person. Any other agency owner might say, look, I see this, I hear you're working really hard. I hear you're doing a lot. And maybe the team member doesn't know exactly that, hey, this math that's in front of them, 99 times out of 100, well, maybe, okay, 95 times out of 100, the agency owners don't even know this math. So the team members probably don't know this math, but this one person just knows. They're always picking up after stuff. They know, man, that P&C rainmaker, gosh, they're just always sales, sales, sales. They're doing nothing else. And I'm working my tail off. So your service-only person, in this example, who might be the rock of your agency, they might be that person that keeps people from leaving as far as team members and clients, and you might be risking this person because you're underpaying them. Now, the service and multi-line person, that might be, depending on your market, that might be a good amount for them as far as fairness. They're servicing 100,000 of business, and you're making 50 off of that. Or maybe if your overhead's slightly higher, you might say, well, wait, actually my base is 30 and my overhead is 30, so I'm making 40 off of that. Okay, and that's usually what we want that to be at, about for every 100,000 that we've got one team member. Maybe it's 125, kind of depends on your market. For the office manager, there's not so much of a danger. It really just depends at what is that person doing. If we use the concept I've talked about of a results automator, if this office manager is a combination of helping me make sure I'm on top of my reports, doing some personal assistant work for me, freeing me up, allowing my schedule to be to where I'm maximizing my time, which again is not being shown here, that I'm able to have my appointments show up with their documents ready and all those different things, that person might be well worth it. So there's that concept of we sometimes pay people to help us make money, and then sometimes we pay people because they make us happy. In this case, this person might be doing a combination of both by making sure things are flowing. But the other danger here, the PNC Rainmaker, what if we keep this person for 2 years or 3 years and they don't sell enough? Now we're just kind of throwing away money, the money that really is owed to, and this is the part, the money didn't come from nowhere. This money comes from the service only person. And so what we need to do is say, how could this be done differently so that we're making sure people are paid fairly so that they don't go anywhere? Because again, that PNC Rainmaker, they're making bonuses off of new PNC sales on top of their base, but they're not doing any base salary work. They're not doing any retention. And so what I would do to adjust this, if I used a model of saying, okay, I want to make this as fair as possible, and what I'm going to do is say in this last page, to go back a second, if my base salary and benefits represent 1/3 of my total PNC renewals, so 33%, I'm going to have that play out accordingly. So the base salary for this person doing 150,000 in renewals, 1/3 of that is 50,000, because this person, again, is taking care of that much business and they're costing me the 25,000 overhead. I'm making 50%. That person's probably not going anywhere. And going back to our conversation of building a dynasty, this is what I want. I want people, I mean, obviously, I want to help people grow and develop and become agency owners if that's what they want. But I also want some team members that just love the work and aren't going anywhere because it's such a great situation. And it creates the consistency for me and the continuity to be able to have that happen. And so this next person, again, sticking with my 33%, with all those threes at the end, decimal-wise, my multi-line person is making a $33,000 base because, again, they're servicing $100,000 of business. And so technically I'm making a little less percentage-wise, 42, which is perhaps about the average, but they're doing fine. They're making 33 base, and they have a chance to make bonuses on top of that. My office manager is making a 16,000 base. And you say, Wade, well, how are you going to keep this person? Well, there's a couple other things. If this office manager, and this is where this allows me to get out of the generic sense of office manager, the two most dangerous roles in an agency are office manager and either marketing or social media manager. Both of those positions, if you're not careful, can make almost nothing happen for you, and you can pay a lot for them. So with the office manager, I'm going to have some very specific bonuses set up for them, and they're going to be kind of like bounties. In other words, if we hit this target, if you help me stay organized enough to do this, or if you develop the team in this way, or if the team hits certain targets, whatever it might be, that you can earn bonuses for that, because again, you as the office manager have said, I don't want to be doing service work only. I've done that. I want to do less service work and more time really helping grow the agency. Well, again, then I'll have bonuses or bounties set up that if you help me do that, then you can make bonuses off of that. And then this is the most important adjustment. This PNC Rainmaker might still cost me $25,000 of agency overhead. And if I really got granular on that, I could say, well, you know what? I have $100,000 of overhead for the agency anyway. So technically, if this person wasn't working for me, I'd just be splitting this $100,000 between 3 other people. So I'm okay with the agency overhead. It's kind of unavoidable. Or hey, if the person can work outside the office or work from home, that's great too. But put simply, this person does not have a base salary because they're not doing renewal sales. Base salaries really are renewal sales. They're compensation for you servicing my renewal book and keeping that coming back. And so in this situation here, the base salaries simply reflect a commission percentage, but we're going to call it a base salary. We don't want to use the word commission because that in some states legally can imply trails, even if a person leaves your agency. But in essence, whatever they're servicing PNC renewal-wise, that's what they're being paid. And so this is fair. This is accurate. Now, I have to find a way to make sure the office manager and the PNC Rainmaker have tasks where they'll earn enough income so they're not going to leave the agency, but it's not my job to pay them more than they're worth just because they want a job. And so what I want to show you is how you can then take this concept and apply it. And as with the building a dynasty, there's a tool which I've not yet put the link in. I don't think I'll put the link in a little shorter. Didn't think we're gonna have time to go deep into it. We got a little further on the presentation than I thought. And so I want to show you what this looks like and how you can use it to basically achieve this. And so what this does here, let me shift my view back to me here. Let's turn that off. And now I'm going to share this screen here. Whoops. Share my screen. And so in this example here, I'm looking at an agency, and this is slightly different. This is similar to what we just did, some slightly different numbers. And in this case, this worksheet, I've got a 12-person version of the worksheet and an 8-person version of the worksheet. And in this worksheet here, what I'm doing is, again, I'm saying each of these team members is working with a certain amount of PNC renewal commissions. And I'm typing in what their base salary and benefits cost me. I'm putting in the agency overhead. And again, the agency overhead is balanced. And then I get to see what percentage each of them are doing and then look at what do I need to be looking at. So as far as to perhaps correct this or adjust this. So this first person here, I've got 40% profit on the first one, then 20 and 45 and 45. And you can see that either here by looking at the math or just seeing the percentages. And so if I look at my average profit of 38%, these three people here, the retention person, their renewal profit is above that 38%. Their agency renewal profit here is higher than what their percentage of salary benefits are. And same thing go with the Multiline. My office manager, their base salary and benefits and what they're costing is a higher percentage. And so this allows me then to look at each of these roles and see how can I best balance this out, again, to make sure that it's as accurate as possible and to make sure that I'm not underpaying. So again, I'm making a lower profit on this office manager. Now again, if the office manager is helping me get things done, then that's great. But I'd still rather even out these base salaries and have the base salaries reflect the PNC renewal commission serviced and then have bonuses. And on this page, I'm showing no bonuses here. So nowhere on this page am I showing bonuses. I'm just showing base salary and benefits. So this office manager really should not be at a 50 base. They should be at a 30 base. This, now again, doesn't mean I'm going to go take their base salary from them. That's not a smart thing to do. I'd have to, with existing team members, I'd play with this. And of course, there might be other reasons why this person is worth that 50 base. Maybe there's other things they do. But what I'd want to do is quantify those things. And even if all I did was say, hey, just so you know, when we bring on new people, everybody that comes on that's new, usually if they're entry level with all their licenses, once they've reached that part, their base salary is going to be 30. Here's why you're making 50. Because here's these 10 things you're doing for me. Each of them is worth 2,000 each or whatever they're worth. But I want to make sure you understand so that you keep doing those things. And I'm not yet saying if you don't do those things, I'm going to take back that money from you, especially with a long-term relationship. I'm not going to do that because I'm working with a person and somebody who's been loyal with me and been with me. But I at least want to understand that because I want to understand, okay, really then, if I could take this 50,000 here with this office manager and say, okay, if I took 30 out of that, because that's the book of business they're doing, can I justify 20,000 of other benefits this person is doing for me? Oh yeah, they're taking care of complaint calls. Shoot, I'd write a check for $10,000 not to have to take care of any complaint calls. Great, that gets taken care of. It's taken care of smoothly. I'll write that check, no problem. That's, makes me happy. What else do I got? Well, let's see. I work 4 days a week and I'm never there on Fridays. And I know as long as my office manager is there, they're the rock. I can do that. Okay, that's worth another 5,000. So again, it's not to say that we're looking to take money from them. It's not to say that they're not worth it. It's about looking to see, how do I make sure that they're worth what I'm paying so that I know that I'm not overpaying? Because again, anytime you're overpaying one person, either A, you're hurting yourself, which you usually are, and or perhaps even more importantly, B, that money could be going to somewhere else. So you might be saying, well, hey, Wade, you know what? Gosh, I just need to take home 35% or 30% or 40%. I'm taking home 40% because wait, I'm looking at my overall numbers and I'm taking home the right amount. But again, if I'm not balancing it correctly, I might create a situation where I lose my best people because they're being underpaid, and then I keep my overpaid people. So it's something to keep an eye on. And again, in the worksheet, you have the ability to do larger amounts. Or in fact, that's just some dummy data. That's right. I just tested to make sure it worked. And here, some sample data. And again, this is something that will allow you to get a sense of whether or not you're compensating in a way that is in alignment with what their base salaries are. Now, the one thing this does not address, which is very important, is what is this person's salary worth based off of their ability? And so you might say, wait, look, this person has this license and that license. And so there are situations where you might say, look, based on what you achieve, based on what you're able to do, I might slightly change where your salary is. But even with that, I want that to be based off of something that is tangible. I want that to be based off of something that is not just kind of pulled out of thin air, but it's something that is based off of you being able to hit a certain result or you having a certain capacity to do something that maybe other people can't do. So I might say, hey, if you have, if you're auto fire license, you get this base. If you're also life health license, you get this other base. So there's different ways I can make sure that that's rewarding somebody for being worth more, for being somebody that has more talent and more ability. What I don't want is I don't want a situation where I'm just outright paying more just because the person's in the chair, just because they happen to be there. I want it to be based on some sort of qualification or capacity they have, but ideally, I want it to be based off of results, something they're achieving. And so what I'm going to do is open up again, check out again for any questions. So again, to answer Joe's question here, I will be posting replays of this if you missed parts of this or whatnot. Also, if you see one of the links here, it mentions click here to schedule a strategy session or bonus plan review with me. You can click that link and schedule a time to connect with me. If for some reason those times just don't work in your schedule, just shoot me an email and we can figure something out. But basically, what we've done now is we've said we have an idea now of how we're going to build the agency, how we're going to grow the agency. We're going to look to grow by anywhere from a half to one person, who knows, maybe even two people, but even just one person a year. If you grow one person a year for the next 5 to 10 years, that's 5 to 10 people. And of course, do that in a way that's generating profit. And then secondly, creating a situation where we're paying salaries in a way that is fair and it's true, so that I'm not overpaying. I don't have to come back and correct it and say, oops, my bad, I was overpaying you. Now I got to pull back on it. And I also don't have to come back and say, oh, well, you know what? You're underpaid and now you're leaving me. Now I've got to figure out why you left. And possibly one of the worst things that can happen as an employer is I end up losing somebody that I know is good because I simply didn't have my stuff in order as far as how to best compensate them. So again, gonna take a pause here. Any questions on any of the content we've covered so far? And what we're going to look at next is some of the compensation. So the next two segments coming up in 5 minutes and then about 35 minutes are two different versions of a compensation plan. One's simpler and one's a little more complex, a little more powerful, of how you can compensate your team members in a way that makes it very clear to them that you want to pay for great results, that you're willing to do that, and make sure they're in a situation where if they're willing to do the work, that they will get compensated well and they will be motivated to do what you want. They'll be motivated to perform at a high level, not just simply motivated to fill a chair or just be present in the agency without really fully being engaged in what's going on. All right, so I'm going to take about 1 second. I'm going to also check my email real quick just in case we got some emails in between. All righty. Now let me close up that. And again, as a reminder, next week, just keep an eye out. We'll have some more of these workshops like this going on, except we're going to be focusing a lot on this guy, the sales process, the content of what we do in here. And that'll be something that you can have, you can come to, definitely. Your team members can come to. And what I'm going to do is basically go through the core content of what we teach over the entire year in our sales coaching program. So there are 6 primary conversations that are really important that get team members and agency owners delivering value at a high level for your clients. And I'm going to cover all of that. I'm going to teach all of it. So if you're somebody that really just digests information really well and you don't need to be told something twice and you implement, you can just watch it. You'll figure out what we're doing and you can run with it. Most people, want to then implement and share ideas and work with each other. And so what I'll be doing is showing you what we do. And this is the content that we teach week in and week out with our sales coaching. So I'll be introducing you to that so you get a sense of that. And then again, if you have questions, you can always check out, you can go to smartbonussystem.com to learn more about the bonus system. And you can always go to automaticinsuranceagency.com to learn more about the coaching we do around growing your agency. Some of this content actually bridges a little bit of both gaps. And then you can also listen to the podcast, Automatic Insurance Agency Podcast, and hear some of the content that can help you grow your agency. All right, so what I'm going to ask you all to do, if you all put in the chat how many team members you have, and if you just type in, and this is for if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, if you just type in, 3 team members, 2 team members, whatever it might be, because that's going to help me tailor what I'm going to do even more so. I have an idea what the average is, but it just helps me to be clear about what it is that you have and what you're working with, so I can really kind of speak to that as best as possible. I like to make sure that I am really speaking to wherever you are at and to make sure I'm doing that. And let's just do this. All righty. All righty. So I'm going to go about 1 more minute here. And again, just a reminder, if you need to, you can always go to smartbonussystem.com if you need to check out any of the information of the content. And again, you can schedule strategy session there if you like. And okay, Joe, thank you. 2.5 team members, 2 of them are remote. Awesome. And that's definitely something that's becoming more and more of something that is can be awesome, but definitely requires making sure we're measuring results with team members. And that's definitely a huge reason why, even more than anything, being able to see not just what the results that come up on, let's say, front run or whatnot, but making sure that we're addressing whatever it is that is going to help make sure things are happy in your agency. All right, so now what we're going to do is go into a conversation around what I like to just simply call the simplest multi-line bonus plan that works. And I'm going to start by first focusing on a PNC only version of it. And so what I'm going to do first here is there's a tool we have where we help insurance agency owners create a bonus plan for their team members. And it's called the One-Page Bonus Plan Creation Wizard. And what I'm going to do here is show you how we would, in the simplest way, create a bonus plan that would motivate a person who is a PNC producer who is looking to do high levels of PNC sales. So this is not retention bonuses. This is not somebody that's just doing retention. This is somebody that's also actively making things happen. Now, what I'm going to be doing is there are some certain assumptions. For this case, I'm just focusing on auto and fire. And different people have different average premiums. If you want to, consider that. If you want to type your average premiums for auto and fire in the chat, happy to make this specific to a specific agency if you want. But I'll use these numbers for now. And so what I'm doing is I'm using some commission rates. As you all know, these might be different than the company you work with. These are some dummy rates here. And so yours might be higher, they might be lower. I just chose some round, pretty numbers that are easy to look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a bonus plan. And I'm not going to go into the mechanics of how the tool works, this wizard works. I'm just going to go right to the bonus plan. And so if I have a team member that is doing auto and fire sales, and I really want them to perform at a high level of auto sales, fire sales, I want them to work leads. I want them to stir stuff up. And again, to be really clear, it's great if they do add-on autos. It's great if they, write the after-hours autos that come in once they've come in. But I don't just want that. I really want them doing, and that's why, by the way, I have those at 1% in this example. I want them doing more of this 2% stuff. I want them personally soliciting business. I want them, making sales happen. I want them to be doing requotes. I want them to be calling on win-backs. I want to do whatever it is possible for them to be stirring up business. And based off of that, at least on the auto side, I'm going to pay a slightly different percentage. Now, you can go even more aggressive. You could say, well, wait, I'm going to pay 3% or 4% or 5% if they personally solicited it. One of the things you'll find is if you go too aggressive with that, fudging happens more often is the simplest way to put it. And I want to accurately know where stuff is coming from. So what's going to really make it worth more is when they hit higher levels of production. So I know, let's say that they're going to get 5 to 10 add-ons or walk-ins or whatever it might be. So the targets is where I'm going to reward them more, because what I've got set up here is they've got this initial bonus amount of either 1% to 2%. And then down here under the targets, let me make sure you all are seeing my screen here. Yep, you all should be. Yep, you are. Okay, under the targets, I want to make sure that they are able to make more if they hit these higher levels of production. And so what they're going to see is if they get to 18 auto, they're going to get another 1% on all the auto they wrote that month. If they get to 21 auto, they're going to get another 2% on all the auto that they wrote that month. So I can do this in different ways. And put simply, what I'm creating is a situation whereby the longer or the deeper they go into this, the more money they can make off of this and the more they can earn. So they could earn down to this level here at 30, where they're making 5% based off their initial rate. So initial rate for them was 2%, and now they're making 7% on that business because they've done that at such a high level. And again, if you have any questions on that, you can let me know and we can take a look at that. And then so on the fire side, in this case, a lot of people will tend to more measure based off of the type of policy, or they'll track based off of that. And again, I might have some of the policies, the liability umbrella, the personal articles policy, where maybe I pay a flat dollar amount or a higher percent because those are policies that don't pay as much. But I still find, hey, premium is premium, and that's true. And again, down here, if they do 12 policies, they earn 1% more on all the fire they did that month. If they do 16, they earn 3% more. If they do 5, if they do 20, which is level 5, they earn 5% more. And these targets, I could have these be policy targets, or I could have them be premium targets. So you could do this either way. I'm going to do policies just to keep this kind of simple. And so what I'm going to be able to show the producer is to say, look, these are your targets, 18 to 30 auto, and 12 to 20 fire. And I'm going to show them, here's what happens if you do certain things. And I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. Well, first I'm going to look at the big picture. I'm going to zoom in, then I'm going to zoom back out again. So big picture, I'm showing a bonus opportunity of anywhere from $6,000 to just under $24,000. And again, if you have higher premiums, this is going to just get bigger and it's going to scale accordingly. So if I zoom in on this a little bit, what I'm telling this person is saying, look, if you can do 18 auto and 12 fire on a consistent basis, based off of these average premiums, you're going to make $500 of bonus per month, and you're going to make $6,000 of bonus throughout the year. You might have other incentives, but this is the core sort of your month in, month out bonus plan. So that's a $6,000 bonus opportunity. If you want to get to 9,000, we'll just do a few more auto, a few more fire, 21 auto, 14 fire. You want to get a little bit more, 24 auto, 16 fire, you're at 13,000 of bonus. And so I'm showing them really just the lay of the land. Here's where you can make more and more and more, anywhere from, again, a little over 5,000 to 24,000 of bonus opportunity based on them being able to hit certain numbers. And so what I'm communicating also is I'm making it very clear to say, look, my job as the agency owner is to coach you and to help you be worth more, because I've got fixed expenses and I've got these variable expenses that once I hit my fixed expenses, I can pay higher and higher bonus percentages. Once you get over a certain amount and we've gone past our lapse can and we're hitting company bonuses and all that good stuff, I can pay higher percentages. So for you as the team member, this is a $6,000 to $24,000 bonus opportunity. And I'm going to do my best just to coach you. And I'm going to start out the conversation, if I'm interviewing you, if I'm talking to you, say, okay, based on where you're at, what do you want to do in the next 3 months? What level are you aiming at in the next 3 months? Well, in the next 3 months, I want to hit level 1. Okay, great. What about 3 months later? What about 6 months later? Okay, let's talk about, you want to be at these different levels, you want to grow. Now you know that it's not that I have a money tree and I'm holding back on you, and I'll pay you if I'm a good guy and you're a nice person, and I won't pay you if you're mean or if I'm a Scrooge. It's more about, this is what this is worth. And now we can shift our conversation to what activities and what results need to happen in order for this to, occur. Now, the other thing I want to make sure I'm doing is I want to make sure that I'm not overpaying. And so if I look at the agency income, this is all part of this tool. And again, part of what I can help you do with a review of your agency's situation is I'm going to look at this and say, okay, at projection level 1, based on the assumptions I've entered here, and again, these are dummy assumptions, but based on this first level, you're still doing your 18 auto, 12 fire, you're making your 6,000 of bonus over here on the right, you're writing $28,800 worth of business. If I pay you the $6,000 bonus, I have $22,000 after having paid you. Now, let's look at that for a second. This could mean a couple different things. If you are servicing a part of the book of business, and as we talked about in the last segment, if you're grossing, if you're servicing 100,000 of P&C renewals, and I'm paying you, let's say a $30,000 base to do that, and I'm already making money and you're making money because you're servicing that book, I don't need to make up that $30,000 to pay your base. So I don't need this $22,000 to pay your base, because you're already making money. You're earning your base by doing renewals. And so this 22 is really just gravy. It's okay, what else? And I might have put some of it into marketing. I might have put it into other things, but that's profit after bonus is paid on first year sales. Now, again, you might say, Wade, some of that goes back to my lapse can, some of it goes back to different areas, no problem. But that's very different than if you say, no, Wade, this is for my additional team member who has come on, and you know what, I'm giving him a draw, or I'm paying him $2,000 a month base. Okay, well, now that person, if you're paying them $2,000 a month base, that wouldn't be too dangerous. You're paying them $24,000, so you're losing a little bit. They're adding what, $288,000 of premium to your agency, roughly, let's say $250 of that, or at least $200 of that's going to stick. So again, so much of this depends on, is this person stirring this up? Are they making it happen? Or would it have come in anyway? But at each of these levels, I've got about 22,000, 24,000, 24,000 at level 3. I've got 25, 24. And we intentionally set it up this way to say, basically, as long as you know, in this example, that you can afford this 24,000, you're good. Now, if you're in a different marketplace and you say, Wade, you know what, in my market, the average premiums are about 1,000. And so that's going to impact the bonus opportunity. That's going to make it close to a $30,000 opportunity for them. And for me as the agency owner, that means at level 1, I've got about 28,000 to work with. So again, it scales a lot based on where you're at. But what I'm looking to do is, in this case, if I had a person and I added a team member, and in my market, these are my numbers, and if this team member did 30 PNC a month, and I'm paying them a 30 base, I can afford that. Yeah, I'm paying a little bit extra in overhead, and I've got some other things, but again, that's $360,000 of premium they're writing. Roughly $300,000 of that's going to renew. That's a good situation for me. And so a lot of this is about making sure you're looking at the situation through the eyes of how profitable is it? Is it profitable for you? Is it a huge risk? Is it a small risk? Or is it working out for you? And so what I ask you to do as we're going through here is definitely in the chat, if there's any questions you have, please put them in there so I can see them. But again, this is just right now PNC only. Now, this would also tell me though that there could be a danger here. So one of the other things on this tool is I can run some custom scenarios. So I could say, what if a person came in, and I'm going to take this base salary out of here. What if a person came in and, well, actually, let's say I was paying this person a $30,000 base salary. And what if this person is doing 10 auto and 5 fire in a month? Now, you probably already know this without me illustrating this. That person's going to cost you that bonus plus their salary. So that person is going to make this $32,000 at this first level here. And what you're going to be seeing if you looked at your income is you'd say, wait, I've got $18,000 coming in, but I'm paying out 30. I'm losing because this 15 isn't covering the 30. So again, this would let you know, which again, you might already know just from having done this long enough, that yeah, you need more than 10 to 15 apps from this person if they're that additional person. Again, if this person though was already making money off of PNC renewals from base salary, then you're good. So that's the PNC version or the PNC view of it. What I want to do now is take this same concept and I want to apply it to us having the multi-line situation. Okay, and thank you. Somebody else put in 2 full-time and 2 part-time remote. Some of my software will show this, who the name is. I'm not seeing it at the moment, and that's okay. But yeah, so what I want you to consider in all this first is just as a quick interlude in between here is all of this from the beginning that we've been doing is we're trying to accurately assess what people are worth. Again, going back to the example, the car dealership, what's a person worth in the service department? What are they worth on the sales floor? If I get both of those right, and a person says, option A is you work service only. Option B is you work sales only. Option C is you work a hybrid of sales and service. I can make any of those work. They just need to be fair. And what most people are realizing is this can be fair whether they are full-time in person, whether they're remote, whatever it might be, whatever the activities are, as long as we can measure it accurately and make sure that our numbers are accurate, it's really not very dangerous. It's just more of a situation of us seeing, what's going to be the best situation that keeps people happiest the longest. And overall, going back to the first presentation, building a dynasty, I want an agency that runs itself, that allows me to work as few hours as possible and impact positively as many lives as possible so I can reach more people, grow my business, educate more people, all those different things. And having team members that are compensated for results is going to make that happen. So, quick story that relates to this. We were talking about with an agency I work with we did a lot of training on disability insurance and had not seen them really jump into it, selling it. They've done a lot of hospital indemnity sales. And then one month I had said, hey, well, we're going to double the percentage you make on the DI. And that did not do anything. And another month I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pay you $250 extra for every disability insurance policy you do, because we had role played it. They knew how to sell it. They understood it. They were a little nervous. And in this agency, and I think this is pretty much the case a lot around the company, the average premium on a hospital indemnity policy is about $200. The average policy on a short-term DI from a small sample is around somewhere between $400 to $500. So let's call it $450. The average on a longer-term DI, at least occupation class 1, and for what we got, again, kind of a smaller sample, so it would depend on the age, but the average premium on a long-term DI was about $900. So not only did they make a bigger premium on it because it was a much bigger bonus amount, or bigger premium amount, but they got the $250. And then When they got the 250, they started writing, they wrote like 4 in a month between 2 team members. I said, whoa, what just happened? We've been working on this. I said, well, Wade, we didn't know you really wanted us to write disability insurance. When you put 250 on, I said, but I put on a percentage that was higher. And said, well, Wade, we didn't realize that percentage was going to be higher. Okay, then. So, again, a lot of this is really communicating so clearly what is most important to us that team members can see it. And so when we take that same approach, we're now going to apply it and we're going to build on what we just did. And we're going to do it in a multi-line situation of a multi-line bonus opportunity. And this is, so little just mini historical perspective. I've been working with agency owners doing this bonus system since 2000. So a little over 21, 22 years now. And for about the first 3 to 4 years, we were experimenting with different ways of doing the bonus opportunity, what it could look like. And then we got to a situation where we kind of pretty much had it down, like this is what works. And once we did that, we started seeing a certain level of result and a certain type of result that was consistent. And even though we had played with the bonus different times before, we reached a point where we really didn't make any more improvements too much from this. And we've only made minor tweaks to this. So this bonus plan framework I'm about to show you here is pretty much goes back to about 2005. So 17 years now that this has been working consistently day in and day out in all size markets because it's premium based, percentage based, or at least percentage based from a standpoint of premium, and it just works. So what I'm going to do here is show you, again, we've got some assumptions, and I'm going to go ahead with the $1,000 premium that we just did before. And we've got this bonus plan set up. Now, what you're going to notice is, unlike before, we're now adding some different options here. And we are now including a situation where we now add some life and health and bank bonuses. Now, again, these are dummy numbers. So your bonus numbers might be higher, they might be lower, whatever. So we're paying a certain percentage when they issue the auto, the fire, the life, the health, the bank. And now what we're doing, which is slightly different than what we did before, is for the auto, the fire, the life, and the health, if they hit certain targets, we're paying them a higher percentage of auto and fire premium. But unlike our last example, where it was very simple, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it was auto only or fire only or whatever it might be, in this case, we have percentages that are on a bit of a steeper curve. It's not this even bumps. It's 0.1% and 0.25, then 0.5, 0.75, and 1. And so what we've got here, and again, you can do this different ways. So I could go I could do a different screen. I could change these numbers slightly. But what I've got here is, again, initial bonuses and then target bonuses. Now, there are some other areas down here, which I'm not going to go in too much to yet. There's some team bonuses. I'm going to go back to those in a second. First, I would just want you to understand the basic concept, which is that there are initial bonuses and there are some target bonuses. And so if they write 2 life policies, they get more in all their auto and fire. If they write 3 life policies, they get more in auto and fire. And initially, we use these percentages a lot the same. Again, we can play with these. We could say, you know what? In fact, I'm going to make this a little higher. I'm going to make this 0.01, 0.0125. So I can make these whatever percentages that's going to work, but you're going to see there's a certain result I'm aiming for when I play with this. So I have these numbers. As they hit higher targets, they make more on their PNC. And so as they look at their possibility for bonuses, this person can now see that at this level 1, they could have about a little over 10,000 of bonus, and at level 5, 43. So there's a lot bigger bonus opportunity here because there's multi-line going on. So 18 auto, 12 fire, 1,000 a life premium, 400 a health premium, and this person, and some bank sales. And again, you might or might not be doing bank at the moment, so you could take that out or add that in. This person would make $10,000 worth of bonus throughout the course of the year. Next level would be 17, next level 25. And then again, when I look at it from the agency owner perspective, at level 1, I'm again scroll up here. At level 1, the business that they're writing about 40,000 of business. I'm paying 10,000 of bonus. So if I had a person at a $30,000 base in this market with these premiums, I'd pretty much be having them cover their base if they performed at this level. Doesn't mean they have to. Again, it depends. Are they servicing a book or not? But at each of these levels, they're making money, I'm making money, and in fact, I could even make this even a little more lucrative, like these last two levels. If I know, you know what, I just need this 30,000. I want to keep giving the money back to them percentage-wise, because again, I want to make this as lucrative as possible. I want to make it to where I'm attracting the absolute best people. I could make this, and again, I'm just literally experimenting with this as we go here. And then I could say, great, so now you have up to almost 50,000. Let's see what that does, the numbers for me. I've still got a little bit of money to play with. I go back one more time, and I could make this 0.0125. Whoops. Yeah. And in all of those situations, I at least have 30 to play with. At 29, boo-hoo. They're writing $500,000 of premium or more, and I'm only keeping 30. But look at the bonus opportunity I'm able to show. I've got a 50,000 plus bonus opportunity. Now, where this is going to tie into what we're covering next is when I can communicate to the marketplace that I have a $50,000 bonus opportunity in addition to whatever base salary I'm paying, I can then communicate a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 opportunity that is real if people can get results. And so as I'm doing my job postings, and again, we're going to look at this in a little more depth coming up, that's going to allow me to be crystal clear about what's possible financially if these people perform at different levels, and make it clear that in my agency, there's plenty of opportunity. I want that person that wants to become an agency owner. I want that person that is really good, and maybe they're motivated, but they haven't yet found the right agency. They haven't found the right spot, or they're performing really well, and they're just being underpaid. And believe it or not, you'd figure in today's market that wouldn't happen. I still find a lot of team members, more than anything, they feel underpaid, but they are underpaid compared to what could be done. And so I can illustrate that. And then when it comes time to recruit people, or when it comes time this time of year to tell people, hey, here's what's possible. Look, you could be making all these different numbers. Again, tell me, where do you want to be this year? Where do you want to be in this upcoming year? Oh, I want to be at level 1. Or where do you want to be in the first half of the year? First half of the year, I want to be at level 1. Second half of the year, I want to be at level 2. Okay, well, would you like me to coach you and develop you to be at those levels? Absolutely. Great. Let's go. And I could even go one step deeper, and I could have a conversation and say, okay, well, let's talk about what you want to do. So you might say, well, the minimum that I would do, and let's say I could, if I were recruiting somebody, or if I was talking about somebody, I'd say, look, here's what your base salary is right now. And I'm just using, again, 30 is a nice, round, pretty number. And what's the minimum that you think you'll do next year? Well, minimum I'll do 15 auto, 10 fire, 2 life, 2 health. Okay. If you did that, you'd make this amount over here, this 38. What would be good for you? Well, good would be 20 auto, 15, and 4 and 4. Okay. If you do that, you're going to make 51,000. What would be great? Well, 30, 25, and 5. Well, if you do that, you're going to make 75,000. So being able to have these sort of conversations with team members to show the opportunity, and then also, again, to make sure that at all of these levels that you can afford it. Again, if they're performing at these higher levels, especially if you have a situation where they're servicing part of the book, you've got plenty of wiggle room here, and you're able to communicate a much bigger opportunity. You're able to show somebody that you're serious about helping them be abundant, earn great things. And when you add a couple pieces to this that involve paid time off, it allows you to communicate an extremely abundant opportunity and make it very clear that you want the best people working with you and that you're willing to pay for that. A lot of people want the best people working, and many of them even are willing to pay for it, but they don't know how to demonstrate that. They don't know how to show team members that that's what's going on. This allows you to demonstrate that, to show that, to make it crystal clear that you have the best opportunities and that you want to make sure that they're able to take advantage of that. And again, just to check and see any questions on any of this, I'm going to check in real quick. Go ahead and please put them in the chat. All right, and one of the things, and this is just a little bit of an extra, I didn't have this on the agenda, but I knew we'd probably run into a couple times where we weren't fully busy. And so what I want to do is show you a concept that you can use for paid time off bonuses. And this is something that we've used very successfully in my father's agency, starting to use it in a couple other agencies. So my father's a State Farm agent. I help run his agency. He's lifetime MDRT. He's about to be 79. He still does a lot of high-end life health sales stuff. He doesn't like to be involved in the day-to-day stuff. I help him run his agency. He has an awesome team. I probably invest anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a week with his agency. And this year we hit our 70 life in October, some other different things we did. And some of the things we did as far as compensation wise made some results happen that we knew they could do, but really just hadn't happened. And we were kind of wondering, well, why isn't this happening yet? And so I want to show you two specific ones that have really paid off for us as far as getting team members excited. And again, let me bring this up here. And if this is also something, if any of these documents I'm sharing, if you want them after, if I don't put all the links in here, if you need them or if you'd like to get a handle on them, just let me know. And what I'm going to do is show you just a little bit of how we do our additional paid time off bonuses. And premise being, we know we have great incentives in place for team members month in and month out. So we have a bonus plan that's similar to the one I just showed you. Some slight nuances adjusted for our market, but pretty much that's what we do. And so we have a couple things, and technically we actually have a few more levels to this, but we have some levels where we say, hey, if you issue a certain amount of life policies or a certain amount of life premium in a year, there's an annual bonus of a certain amount waiting for you. And again, we make that really easy to see. We don't even talk in percentage. We say, if you do this, it's $2,500 or $5,000 or whatever it might be. If they issue a certain amount of health premium, they can earn anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. I think this year it's even a little bit more. What we've also done, and this really started, we've been trying to do this for a while, and it finally really helped us a lot this year, is this one at the top, is if the team, not the agent, issues 70 life policies by a certain date, they'll get a share of a pot that's proportional to the number of life policies they issued. And so if they do it by June 30th, they each get 200 per life policy for whatever they issued. If they do it by August 31st, it's 100 per life policy. If they do it by 9/30, it's 75. So again, there's this scale. And in our case, this year they hit it by October 31st, and they each got $50 per life policy, or they're getting $50 per life policy, again, as an end of year bonus in January. For, in essence, the team hitting 70 life apps issued in October, so that, and we definitely build or look to build our year in such a way that our year is based off of a 10-month year. We're going to look to hit our goals in 10 months. And so now we're able to enjoy the holidays. We've just made a couple of hires, some really talented people. We're building upon that. We're getting ready for the new year. Not a lot of stress. So different than so many of the different years we've spent not in that situation. And then some of the other things we've done, which are very helpful, are these ones here, 5 through 8, where team members can earn additional paid time off. So if they issue, in this agency, 90 products in a quarter, so that's averaging 30 a month, they get a day of paid vacation. If they do 360 products in a year, they get an additional day. So that's 4 quarters plus 1 for the year. That's up to 5 days of paid vacation based off of products issued. Based off of life policies issued, they can earn another 5 days. Based off of health premium issued, they can earn another 5 days. Based off of team policies issued, they can earn another 5 days each. And then if they are somebody that sets multi-line review appointments or somebody that conducts discount reviews, they can earn more. And then this other one, similar to the 70, this is the team version of it. Once the team issues 70 life policies, for the rest of the year, each team member gets 1 paid vacation Friday off, alternating. So somebody's off every Friday, and it alternates. And it starts with, of course, in order of the highest individual in life production. But basically getting team members excited about them hitting results, and just as much as possible, creating a situation that is like the situation you have. If you get results, you get paid really well. Well, that's what our team members want. They want the same thing. They want to know if they're performing at a high level of results, that they're going to get paid and compensated very well for that as well. And so, again, that's just something we found. It's so appreciated. It's fair. If they're getting the results that allow us to hit certain levels, then we know that that's something that that is going to be in the best interest of the team. It's going to be in the best interest of them as well. So what I want to do now is go a little deeper into a concept that's going to set up how and why we're doing this, this compensation, this more detailed compensation plan slightly differently than our generic one, our first level one. So our simplest plan, the beauty of it is it's simple. It's so easy to understand. It's on one page, really, really simple. This second one, I say it's more powerful because but it's really more designed for the agency when you're starting to specialize more, like we talked about in the building a dynasty. When you're starting to say, okay, this person's a retention expert, this person's an acquisition person, this person's a multiline expert. And so what I want to do is just first look at a basic conversation about your multiline insurance agency expert roles. And so there are three primary roles, and this does not include an office manager type. That's a fourth role. But the three primary roles, the first one is what I'm going to call a retention expert. This person's focus is renewal. So you could also call them a renewal sales specialist. This person's focus is P&C order taking and retention. Their job is to service and maintain the book, keep clients happy, and minimize lapses. When it's done right, this person is pretty much autopilot. They're taking care of stuff. You don't have to be involved. Results are happening without you having to be involved. This is the main reason most of you all chose to become an insurance agency owner. You wanted a business, you wanted a situation where if you performed at a certain level, that you could have results happen and not have it be that you had to be earning consistently. That's what this does. And so in this model, what we've got is the retention expert. For them, success is defined a certain way. Success is a 12.5% lapse rate or lower, maybe 15, depending on your market. And by lapse rate, some people, that's your customer defection rate. Some people use, talk in retention percentages. So that would be an 87.5% retention rate. That is a successful rate for that person. And a person with a 12.5% lapse rate is an 8-year client. This person helps you pay the salaries and the bills. And if done properly, this allows you as the agency owner to manage your agency in just 1 day per week because you don't have to be involved in all the day-to-day. And this is by far the most profitable part of the business. This is what provides long-term job stability. This is what allows you to grow an agency. And if it's managed well, to take vacations, to be away for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, or to even ease into sort of a semi-retirement or, 30 hours, 40 hours a week, then 35, then 30, and progressively work less and less and still focusing on those highest quality tasks. Kind of like a dentist that says, yeah, okay, I've got my hours down to 20 a week, but I'm still doing root canals and cavities and all those things. So I'm doing the highest result work, the work that only I can really do, but I'm not spending as much total time working. The second role is your P&C growth expert. And this is the person that is soliciting business. Now, this person, they're not 1,000% necessary, but they're awesome if you have them. And when I say they're not necessary is your retention expert, remember, let's look at the definition in the red box. They can do P&C order taking. They can write an auto or a fire that walks in the door. Your P&C growth expert is stirring stuff up. They're making things happen. And so in their situation, we're looking at a situation where they're drumming things up, they're making stuff happen. And so in doing that, they're adding and growing the business. So if you remember our building a dynasty, this is the role that once your agency has reached a certain level of balance of profitability, if you don't add this person, or if you don't do this task, your agency is usually not going to grow. This is that true, okay, we need to grow this guy. So this person is looking to solicit quality sales, educate the client well, and avoid costly business. We do not want them writing business that's going to be gone in a year or 6 months. Success equals a 20% roughly lapse rate on new business. We want them to either pivot from auto to fire or fire to auto. Whatever they're writing, we want them to pivot to the other one. Technically, they could write some multiline, but if I have a multiliner, I'd rather have them refer the multiline to that person. And they are going to work on leads and centers of influence. They're going to avoid that price-only business. Again, even though it's tempting, if they believe the criteria is, look, if you think this person's not going to be here in 6 months, or if they're paying the button, they're already kind of on their way out the door, let them out before it comes in, because I'm paying for your time, I'm paying for your bonuses. I don't want this to be a losing transaction for us. And their job is to help grow the business. Now, again, if we don't have this person, not critical. One of the biggest mistakes, as we looked at earlier, is overpaying this person a base salary, not having them do any retention work, and then having them sit there and say, well, yeah, I only do sales stuff. I only do sales stuff. And yet they don't make anything happen. And so they're just kind of living off the agency base salary. We don't want that. Then the third person, this is very often the agent's role, especially if you have, let's say, 2 or 3 team members. Your role might be a combination of the blue and the green. This is the multi-line review expert. And this person is able to do full multi-line reviews. So you might have somebody that's somewhere between the blue and the green, where they can pivot to a life, they can pivot to a health. That's good, but that's not this person. This is the person that can sit down and do a full-blown multi-line review, auto fire, life, health, disability, assets, liabilities, income and expenses, discount review. And because they're doing a great job educating the client, they're retaining through relationship, they're multi-lining the existing clients, and usually about 20% of the time when they're involved in some sort of transaction, there's a sale happening, often more. This person, if they're a team member, could be handling still about 1,800 households where they're doing some basic retention work, but primarily in appointments. And the main way to measure this person is I want this person doing 20 full client reviews per month. And ideally, they do about 5 life, 5 health, and 5 bank per month. And the 20 reviews, if you back into that, you'd say, okay, well, wait, if this person is doing 20 reviews a month, then they would be doing 240 a year. To do 240 reviews a year, if 10% of our book said yes to a year, we need 2,400 families. So again, a lot of times you might only need one of these people for an agency size of 1,800 to 2,400 households. So if you understand the concept of these 3 roles, if you really get the idea that it's the clarity around these roles that allows you to be as profitable as possible, it's a clarity that allows you to realize, okay, so-and-so is either doing a great job or they're not based on the results they're achieving. That's a little smaller. Let's bring that back up. It allows you to realize that if a person's a retention expert, here's what the results should look like. And we've discussed earlier what the compensation would look like. If they're an acquisition person, here's what the results should look like. But if they're an acquisition person and they're not acquiring business, they're only writing what comes in the door, or they're only writing what drops in their lap. Well, again, that's not our best situation. And if they're a multi-line expert, are they getting the results? Or usually, are they some combination of the two? So most of the time, even the people that agents say, wait, this person's a P&C growth expert. Okay, so what percentage of the time, are they selling? Oh, about half the time they're selling, half the time they're servicing. Okay, well then they're basically a red-green. They're half red, half green, and that's fine. They're retaining some of their work, especially if you have markets where, let's say you have one Spanish speaker or one Vietnamese speaker or one Russian speaker, whatever your market is, wherever you're at. That person very often is doing the sales and the service if they're the only speaker of that language in your office. So it can lend itself to that, and that person can be growing an agency within your agency. But put simply, once you have these roles down, now it allows you to make sure that you can hold a person accountable to the results they're supposed to be getting for that role. So I'm going to real quick open up any questions on this, and then we're going to go into how this applies to our slightly more powerful and a little bit more complex compensation opportunity that can also help you even create more powerful opportunities when you're recruiting people. All right. So now let's do this. We're going to look at what it can look like when the opportunity is a little more powerful. Now, the way I want to introduce this to you, there's two ways I can introduce this to you. One is to show it to you as through the software of the wizard like I did before, but what I'd rather do is show it to you through a recruiting packet. And so this is going to tie us into the next segment, which is recruiting, and it pulls on both of them. And the layout that I'm going to show you is slightly different, but I want you to consider something. If you're going to work for a job and somebody says, okay, great, I've got this opportunity, and they're showing you their job opportunity, and you're looking at the opportunity, and when they show you the opportunity, what you see is that they have this opportunity, and they haven't really, they get this, it's this Word document. Like here's the opportunity. Look at this Word document and you can see what the opportunity is. And so you have this Word document, this Microsoft Word document that says, okay, the opportunity is this, if it's this. So you've got the math of it, but there's no pizzazz. There's no pretty colors. I like pretty colors. There's no sexy to it. This is what we would want to be showing perhaps instead. And so in this case here, this could be the opportunity for a retention expert. And what this can look like is us communicating what we're looking for and then breaking it down in a little more detail. Now, in this case here, in fact, I'm going to go to a one-page view here. Just a single page. So on the first page of this document, I would also have a little picture here, by the way. I'd have my picture. And in fact, let me just change this view slightly. Let's get us back to our full view there here. And I would have this view, and I could have a picture of the agency or whatever. So this is the career opportunity for retention expert. So this is page one. Page two, I've got these same roles that we just looked at described and say, okay, here are these roles. In fact, I'm going to do it this way so I can even zoom in on this a little bit. I've got these roles described here that we just looked at. So here are the roles in our agency. As we go down the page, this recruiting packet is going to show you a possible career path, the compensation opportunity, and it's going to show you the performance standards and the consequences if you don't perform very well. And so on this first page after that, so this is page three, I'm going to show them what the possibility is. And I'm going to say, look, I've got these different opportunities in here. If you are starting with us, you're going to start at, let's say in your agency that they start with a $33,000 base salary. If you're a retention expert, there's going to be certain results you can get where if you make a certain number of retention calls, and if the lapse rate at the agency is a certain level, and if you're helping us get the auto policies or documents in fire and life and health, the documents that clients have with their policies with other companies, and you get appointments to show for multi-line reviews or discount reviews, if you're doing that, you could be making anywhere from $32,000 to $42,000. And oh, by the way, you could earn some additional paid time off based on your results. And then as the auto fire growth expert, if you did well at this, if you did good at this job, so you come and you start with us and you do well at this and you consistently perform at either level 4 or 5 for 3 months in a row, then we're going to be willing to invest time to develop you at this next level. So right away, whether you're an agent aspirant, whether you're a person I've never met before, I'm not giving you the best opportunity. I'm not putting all this time into training you and getting you licensed on life and health and all this stuff until you first demonstrate that you can do well at retention. But what I'm showing you is what the opportunity can look like. So it's okay, again, the first 6 months to maybe a year, you're going to be a retention expert. You're going to get great at this. And then if you get great at that, then the next opportunity is to be an auto fire growth expert because you know how to retain the business. And now you add to that the ability to sell business. You do a certain number of quotes, and obviously this might be higher or lower depending on your closing rate. You sell a certain number of auto fire sales. And again, you earn some additional income and paid time off. And then as a and if you do well at that and hit level 4 and 5 for a consistent period of time, then you can be a multi-line expert. And we'll teach you about the life and the health and the bank and the disability and deeper client reviews. And you could earn even more money and even more paid time off. So just communicating that opportunity makes it very clear to the prospective team member that you really want to attract awesome people. Now, when we've had people come into our marketplace from out of area, so they're talking to 2 or 3, let's say, of the agents in the same company, in the same market, we've 5 times had agents tell us, look, when I use this document, 5 for 5, because I showed them this one page right here, because I showed them the opportunity and the possibility of growth, they chose me, and they said it's because I showed them this. So this piece, whether you've used it before or not, is a big deal to help communicate the opportunity and let people see. Now from there, and I'm not going to go quite as much into the depth here, because this is where we go into the detail of the opportunity. And I'll simply say in each of these opportunities, it's a little different layout than the one-page bonus plan. So we show them the auto-fire bonuses, and then we show them this concept of appointment production, where they can set appointments that show. And if they set appointments that show, they have the ability to earn anywhere from $60 to $400 per month in bonus. And that'd be off of getting clients to show up for multi-line appointments, client reviews, bringing their other policies. And so what that allows us to do is to make it very clear that even as a retention expert, there's an opportunity to, you could just outright do retention work and be good at that and you'll make money. But if you want to stir up additional things, there's opportunity for you to make more. And then from there, there's also some bonus opportunities that are, some of them are unique to the retention expert, some of them are slightly different for each. All of the team members have an opportunity to earn a lapse rate bonus, but there's different amounts. It pays differently. If you're a retention expert, it pays higher. So every month that the agency's at a certain lapse rate, and you would set those, you get $20 based on the auto lapse rate, the fire lapse rate, and the average. So there's an opportunity to earn another $300 based off of the lapse rate. There's the ability to earn bonuses based off of agency growth. So there's a monthly bonus for retention experts off of agency growth. And there's an annual bonus only for the retention experts off of annual growth, because PNC growth, if you're a retention expert, you're a renewal sales expert, that's the main thing I want you making sure happens. And if you can do that, I want to reward you well. And then earlier we mentioned the ability for them to earn paid time off. Again, you could do this different ways, but one way is to say, look, you need to make your 200 retention calls a month, and there's a certain protocol we have of how we do that. But if in a given month you can get 200, make your 200 calls, get 5 appointments to show for multi-line review, and the agency lapse rate is this 16%, you could earn a quarter day of paid vacation each month, and in total that would earn you 3 additional days of vacation for the year. If you did level 5 and you did 200 calls made a month, and you did 25 multi-line appointments at show every month, and our lapse rate's at 12%, you'd earn 15 days of paid vacation. You might say, wait, that's a lot of paid vacation. Yeah, it's also a lot of multi-line reviews. If the agency gets 300 multi-line reviews and the lapse rate's at its lowest of your targets, that's going to be well worth 15 days of paid vacation. In fact, you didn't really even have to pay for it. They got the results. You simply gave them the time because they focused while they were in the office, rather than kind of, not taking things so seriously. And then the last piece that, again, is possible for everybody is a team bonus, where we say based off of different targets, if we hit certain targets, everybody gets $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, or 5, 10, 15, 20. There's different ways you can do it, but put simply, an opportunity for another $300 a month. And so as I go down the page here, they have life health bonus opportunities. Technically, they usually wouldn't be doing much with that. And then I can show them at the bottom what that total possible bonus is, if they hit all these different numbers, and what they could be making. So I'm making it very clear to them that there is anywhere from a $180 to $1,000 bonus per month. So that's $2,000 to $12,000 per year, 3 days to 15 days per year. And again, all of that is based off of their ability to get results. Now, in addition to showing what's possible, I also need to show what's necessary. So in any role, I want to be very clear about what is required to stay in the role and be successful. If I were hiring pilots, I would say there's 3 things you have to do. You have to be able to launch the plane, You have to be able to fly the plane. You have to be able to land the plane. If you can't do those three things, you cannot be a pilot, or at least not very long. And so if you're going to be a retention expert, you need to help have the agency lapse rate be at a certain level. And in order for it to be either outstanding, good, or acceptable, it's got to be at these certain levels. And at those levels, you get all your bonuses. At other levels, it's just unacceptable. The lapse rate's too high, and maybe there's no lapse rate bonuses or there's no bonuses of any kind, depends on what you're doing. The second critical result, and you could change these, is you making your retention calls to the clients. And again, there's criteria that are outstanding to acceptable or unacceptable and complete failure. And then probably the most important result, or equally as important as these three, is minimizing the agency owner's time spent on retention work. So if I'm having to do a lot of complaint calls as the agency owner, if I'm having to follow up on a lot of second requests, things I should not be doing, then that could be a problem. But if that's happening, then that's a good result. So I'm going to clearly communicate what that position needs to look like if you're already coming in ready to do the position. If you are new and you're developing into the position, then I'm going to show you the milestones of a week at a time for the first 13 weeks and then a month at a time for the rest of the first year, what you need to be doing in order to stay employed and stay in the position. So again, I've showed you what's awesome. Now I'm going to show you what's required. And so in all of this, I'm showing you in this case, and these could be edited, but the calls need to be made. Eventually the appointments need to show how much time you're going to be training. Your training time is going to reduce over time. And then eventually I'm also going to get into the conversation of what is your exact training plan. I'm going to lay that out to make it very clear that, look, I have a plan for you to help you do this. And then I'm also going to get clear about what responsibilities you ultimately need to learn to be able to do this position. And so if I can communicate that for this position, I can make it so clear what the opportunity is. And I can even go to a level of detail where I talk about what your compensation is in the first 3 months, how you get a raise. And again, some of these numbers are a little dated as far as the base salary amounts, but I can adjust these. I can show you when you get your health insurance, if you get that, or your disability insurance, your life insurance, or whatever it might be. By the way, disability insurance is a great thing through the company to get for your clients or your team members because they get a policy. They have some they can show their clients, and same thing with life insurance. Not quite as expensive as health insurance, but something you can do for them that gets them engaged and gets them aware of what's going on. So again, as before, if you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the comments. So that's the retention experts, really their recruiting packet. And now what we would do is just say, look, we have the same concept, this recruiting packet, for each of the positions. So for a growth expert, I can say, look, the target result is for you to help me grow the agency anywhere from 5 to 20%. Really kind of depends on where you are with your agency. And what I'm going to show you is, again, that beginning first situation. Here's what's common to everybody. We've got these roles. We've got these opportunities. Here's where you could be growing into. And then as with the other opportunities, the initial bonuses are the same. But one of the parts that's unique for this one is when we look at the compensation opportunity for writing high amounts of P&C. Now, again, you don't have to do it this way, but we found this to be very, very, very powerful with P&C producers, because usually with the P&C producer, it's not so much that I'm looking for the world to be set on fire as much as I'm looking for consistency. And so what I can do here is say, look, on a monthly basis, here's the targets I want you to hit, 18 auto to 13 auto. And you'll get a monthly bonus for that, in addition to you make your 1 or 2% when you write it, and then you get this monthly bonus if you hit these targets. Now, on a quarterly basis, if you hit these same targets, so if you just stay on time, you do 18 times 3 is 54, 30 times 3 is 90. If you stay on target with this, on a quarterly basis, I'm going to give you another 1% on all the auto you wrote for the quarter. And if you stay on target for the year, your annual bonus for the auto is going to be 1% of all the auto you wrote for the year. So you could earn up to 3% more based on you just doing awesome numbers and being consistent. And the same thing happens with the fire. So again, my base rate for you might be 2%, but there's a possibility of another 3% where you could earn up to 5% as one of these auto fire production experts. As with the other situations, as with the retention expert, I have a lapse rate bonus, but you might not, if you notice the math here, the retention expert was getting 20 to $100 at these levels. Same exact target levels, but half the amount. Why? This person is less involved in the lapse rate than the retention expert is, but they're still involved. They're writing the business. And a lot of the times client lapses happen because the policy wasn't so well in the first place. So there's opportunity for them there. They have a monthly policy growth bonus, not the annual one, because they have the annual bonus for writing the business. And they have a different way they can earn paid time off. In their case, it's through auto fire policy sold, auto fire quotes done, and auto fire lapse rate. And again, you could have different criteria so they can earn additional bonus opportunity. And in their case, they have the team bonus just like the others do. They have the life and health and bank bonuses. And they now have, like we looked at earlier, the opportunity where we show them, okay, here's what you could make at different levels. In this case, I'm illustrating a base salary of $30,000. So it's showing this person they can make anywhere from 35 to 50. So again, if I'm presenting this to somebody, say, hey, look, you said you want to make 50 or whatever the number is, here's how you could make that. And then again, I'm going to talk to them about what are those requirements? What results do they need to hit to be considered for this, whether it's auto fire policies written, quotes completed, or agency lapse rate. And again, I can have timelines. And these timelines, initially, I might not be fully aware where's the best place to put them. But think about it this way. If at week 6, I know you should be doing 15 auto fire quotes per week, and you should be, remember, this is the person that's soliciting PNC business. They're not writing walk-ins or add-ons. They're soliciting. So at week 5, they should have 15 quotes and 3 policies that they're soliciting. Well, if I reach week 5 and they've not done that, maybe the first couple times I say, you know what, I don't want to pull the trigger yet on letting you go because I'm not sure. And then 5 months later, at month 6, I finally let you go because it didn't work out. I say, you know what, after I do that 2 or 3 times, I'm going to say, you know what, when they reach week 5 and they don't have 15 per week, it's time for me to let them go. And again, I'm communicating all of this up front. I'm being very clear. It's a big boy, big girl opportunity, big high side. But again, if it doesn't work out, you're not the right person. And I want to push you away from the job too. I want to show you the carrot, but I also want to tell you, look, if you're 80-something% happy where you are and you really don't want to change much, you don't want to grow much, probably best staying where you are. I really don't want to try to convince you to come somewhere unless you're confident you're going to do well. And again, the other pieces of the milestones, the training procession or progress, and then the task they'd have to learn. That's the PNC expert. And then for the multi-line expert, the multi-line one, similar concept. This is probably the most similar to our original bonus plan because it looks at all lines. So again, we've got that cover page. We want them multi-lining 20 to 30% of the time. And we're showing them, again, the overall picture. We're showing them the opportunity. And in their case, and this is very similar to what we just looked at in the last section of the simple plan, they've just got some targets where if they hit certain targets, they can make more on their PNC. And then they also have the lapse rate targets. They also have the ability to earn. Now they instead, whereas the retention expert made 20 to 100, the PNC expert made 10 to 50. They make 5 to 25 because again, they're not quite as involved in retention. They have the the monthly policy growth bonus. And in their case, they can earn even more days of paid vacation. And I've seen some agents even make this up to 48 days of paid vacation, where they could earn a 4-day work week by getting these consistent results. So think about it. If you're able to have a person do 30 PNC and 3 life health bank a month, they're going to earn 6 days of paid vacation in this model. If they can do 50 PNC a month, 15 life health bank, that might be worth you giving them additional 6 weeks of vacation and allowing them the opportunity to earn that. And as with the others, this allows us to illustrate the opportunity. We did a lot of this in the last section, but again, this allows me to also show them, here's what needs to happen. Life Health Bank quotes, multi-line review appointments, Life Health Bank sales. Here's the results you need on a certain timeline if you're growing into this position, as opposed to the results you need right away if you're in this position. Here's the training path if we're developing you into this from a previous role because you've moved up. And then here's the different responsibilities you need to learn. So in all of these situations, what I'm doing is I'm creating this situation where you have an ability to grow into the role. You have an ability to be in the role right away, whatever that works out to be, but allows me to be paying you what you're worth and still have you already and always developing for that next role without having to overpay you, without having to say, oh, you know what, you look like you're going to be really awesome, so I'm going to pay you this really high base salary. Nope, I'm going to let you earn your way up. And the whole time you're doing it, you're going to earn. And even if you want to be an agency owner, rather than you spending 1 year learning how to write internet leads auto and then trying to start an agency and possibly falling flat on your face because you don't understand how to run a business, I'm going to help you grow over time into this business model. I'm going to help you understand how to do each of these roles, half a year to a year in retention, half a year to a year in auto fire sales, half a year to a year in multiline. And then, and usually it's going to be at least about 2 years total. And then I'm going to teach you how to recruit and develop people of these positions. So by the time you're 3 to 5 years in, you've not only done the positions, you know how to hire those people. You know how to develop these people. And you're ready, other than the part that involves literally owning the business, you're ready to run an insurance agency. And then you just have left the parts of owning it, which again, are still more and still required. All right, so any questions, input, or feedback on any of that, please put those in the comment section if you would. As I mentioned, there's a lot to that, and truthfully, it might not always be worth it to go to that level of complexity, but sometimes you're going to find yourself saying, wait, I've got these generalists and I'm at a certain level. I want to get to a higher level. How do I get to a higher level? Usually to get to that higher level, you have to have some sort of situation that really is a higher level, more defined and more precise opportunity. When you can show somebody that they can earn that amount of paid time off, that amount of opportunity, they're going to be a lot more likely to consider that. All right, so now what we're going to do is look at a concept I like to call the 90% delegable recruiting process. And I learned apparently the word, it's not delegatable, it's delegable. So what I want to do is show you how you can allocate your time investments as an agency owner so that you're making more impact with the work you do, that high level work, and you're doing it in a way that makes more income and you're doing that in less time. Now, you heard me earlier mention this concept of kind of a dentist model. And so if you think about in North America, the way dentists are run, usually the dentist does the high-end work, the root canals, the cavities, the fillings, the crowns. The hygienists are sort of second level of expertise and income, and they do the teeth cleanings and so on. And the third level is an admin person or persons. Doesn't mean they're better people, doesn't mean that they have more rights, doesn't mean God loves them more or less, just means that there's an economic value of what they create and what they're worth. So in order for you to be able to be doing the things that you enjoy most and create the biggest impact, and very often those are, at least the agents that seem to be attracted to doing work with me, are the agents that say, wait, I love doing productive multi-line reviews. I'm not against selling multi-line. What I don't want to do is be pivoting off of every single auto that walks in the door. I want to do the high-end stuff. I want to do the stuff where the client has been in some way qualified. The client has given me information on their assets, their liabilities, their income, their expenses. The client knows they're coming in for a multi-line review. The client has filled out a questionnaire to tell me what's most important to them. So in order to do that, we have to be able to help really surround you with really talented people that are able to make this happen. And in order to do that, we have to be able to have a process that is not ridiculously annoying. A lot of agency owners find the recruiting process extremely annoying. And so when it's time to recruit, they just don't want to because they don't like doing it. So we need to have something that people are going to want to take action on and you're going to want to do and feel comfortable with. So in this process, what we're going to do is look at what that can look like. So I'm just going to go, and this is just going to be kind of a step-by-step of how you can make this happen and what it can look like. So in this process, what I'm going to do is identify the steps. So the first step that I would do is I need to have some sort of traffic. So in this case, it might be, if you're on LinkedIn and you have good LinkedIn connections, maybe people are coming to you because you've got, you're active on there. It might be through word of mouth. It might be through ads. It might be through Indeed. It might be through Career Plug. There's a lot of different ways, but you're driving some traffic and applications are being screened. And maybe the first time, or certainly when you start an agency, you're the one doing all these things. So you're pre-screening these applications. And If you're used to this, you're sending some sort of pre-screen assessment. So CareerPlug has them, Indeed has them. If you use Wonderlic, the assessment on people's aptitude and their intelligence and mental sharpness, you have the ability to do that. So you might send some assessments to say, okay, look, some traffic came in. I already looked at some of the apps, and some of them I didn't like, but some of them I said yes, and so I sent them some pre-screen assessments, and then I'm going to conduct this in-person interview at the office. Now, these days, you could also do that over Zoom or Skype or whatever it might be, or FaceTime. You could do that, but you want to get to see the person. I still prefer in office unless you have reasons why they can't make it or whatnot, because I get to see the whole person, how they present. Do they dress professionally? How do they interact with other team members? And then I would ask them a few fact checks, questions to make sure that what they put in their application is accurate. And again, I'm going to try to do this ahead of time because I don't want to spend an hour in the interview and then they say, oh yeah, no, I actually really don't have my license. So I'm going to ask some of those questions. In my case, I'm going to administer the Wonderlic aptitude test in person. I want to make sure it's them taking it. I want to make sure they get a score that indicates they're able to do the type of work that we do. Insurance has some details, has some fast pace to it, has some need for ability to be able to digest information. So the Wonderlic test can help you do that. It can definitely help you avoid some poor hires. Then I'm going to get into questions that are specific to the job role, whether they're a retention person or multiline person, whatever it might be. I'm going to, if it's me, administer the Colby profile in person. That's going to give me a sense of what are they more inclined to do. Are they somebody that is a fact finder? They looked at facts and they're very comfortable with those. Are they somebody that follows through and does what they say? Are there somebody that is a quick start that initiates things? And hopefully they're not that much of that fourth number, what's called the implementer, which is a person that likes to be outside, usually working in nature, not behind a desk, that sort of stuff, because usually that's an indicator that they're not a good fit. And then if all those things pass, then I'm going to present the job responsibilities packet, what we just looked at, that combination of what they need to be doing. And then we would do a final interview. I'd present the opportunity packet, which is the rest of it, and then we would do a reference and a background check. Now, there's a lot of steps to this. In most situations, I want to be able to be ready to do all of this in one attempt if necessary. So what I mean by that is if I have somebody that's looking for a job and they get great feedback from me, and then they go interview with 3 or 4 other agencies, that's not a good thing for me. They're now starting to either compare offers against each other or whatever it might be. So at any one of these steps, I know I can pull out of the process if the person's not, moving along well in it. But I also want to know that I can, right where we are, at each step, administer this. So then we get to the part, well, how do we delegate some of this? Well, once I've done this enough times that I've got my process down. So let's say I've done this 5 times, 10 times, whatever it is. Now, one of my team members is going to have been trained in the recruiting manager role. And so they're going to, usually I will have set up a lot of this and they're just going to maintain it. So they're going to make sure the ads are going. They're going to make sure we're notifying people on LinkedIn or wherever it is that we're recruiting. They're going to send out or do the pre-screen assessments. They're going to email those. They're going to conduct the in-person interview. That first interview is actually not going to be with me. It's going to be on a day when I'm in the office. I'm going to be in my back room or I'm just going to be busy, whatever it is. And so the person that's coming in for the interview is going to have been told very accurately that they're coming in to interview with the recruiting manager. Whether or not they meet with me or not is not promised because they might not. And at each one of these steps, again, they might be eliminated from the process. The recruiting manager is going to ask the fact check questions and they're going to administer that Wonderlic test in person. So all of these things, instead of me doing it, somebody else is doing it. Depending on your nature, even if you are the type of person that likes doing these things, once you've done it a few 50 to 100 times, you're probably happy to delegate to somebody else. So once all those steps have been done, if the person's still involved in the process, then somebody who is an expert in the role that that person is applying for would ask them questions. So this still might not be you. If this is a retention expert, well, then my retention expert team member is going to, or team members, so I'd have all my retention team members, and I'd say, all of y'all come in and interview this person, ask them questions, because now I'm leveraging the talent and the expertise of my team members to assess this person's knowledge, their ability. Are they a beginner? Are they as good as they say they are? Will they probably work out well? And I'm always reminding the team members, look, you all are part of this process. You all are helping me make the hiring decision. So if you see something that concerns you, you let me know, because I trust you. I want to know those things. And sometimes I might still say, hey, you know what? We're not seeing eye to eye on this, but I did consult with you. You've told me your concerns. I'm going to honor your concerns by keeping an eye out for them, but I'm still going to bring this person on, and we'll keep an eye on that. But so even still, you might not yet be part of this process. Then again, the recruiting manager and the Kolbe and the Wonderlic test, you can just simply have them sit in a room. It's done on a computer. So that person administers that test, and they can present the job responsibilities packet. They could also present the agent handbook if you have one of those. So basically, again, before they ever get to meet you, they're getting to know all the ground rules, how things are done, the hours, the vacation policy, the attendance. Because again, what we're trying to do is, you're the dentist. You're doing things that are $100 an hour, $200 an hour, $500 an hour. We don't want you doing tasks that are $15 to $20 to $30 an hour. So the recruiting manager is doing these. If all of these things go well, and again, usually you're in the office, so maybe you're doing some work where you know you can be interrupted at a certain time. You know kind of the timing of how long this takes. And usually all of these parts would probably take maybe about an hour if this person's still in the game. And again, at different parts of this, people are dropping out of the process. They're being eliminated. And then the final interview, that's when you and the recruiting manager talk. So the team members have already met them. This person, the team members have given you your feedback either by text, or they've come in and told you, hey, here's what I like about this person. Here's what I'm concerned about. And then if at that point you want that person to come work with you, you can present the opportunity packet. Usually you'll be part of this. You don't have to be part of this. It's still usually good, but technically you don't have to. The recruiting manager presents the opportunity packet and says, hey, just so you know, this is a conditional offer. We've got to do a background check and do all the different things that need to be done. But this is the possibility. So here's what can be done. And then from that standpoint, you've only had to be involved in one step, possibly two out of 12. So you know it's much more likely to have this going on. The same way you might say, wait, I want an appointment caller setting appointments for me. And when there's appointments, I'll gladly do the multi-line reviews, but I don't want to collect the questionnaires. I don't want to, all those different steps. I've earned the right to have somebody else do that. This is the same concept. So in this situation now, these are the steps. And then once you start implementing this, you know who's doing it. And then you can start having goals about what it looks like. And you can say, look, we're going to look to have about 20 to 60 applications per month. We're going to have the pre-screen applications done the same day. As soon as those apps come in, we're either going to, and just as far as the numbers, just to give you an idea, 60 of them are going to apply. Only about 30 of them are going to make it to the pre-screen. And then about 20 of them are going to make it to the in-person office, maybe 15. About 15 we're going to get the fact check to. Some of them aren't even going to make it to the fact check because they came to the in-person interview or the Zoom interview, and they just did not look professional. And again, this is not, to be really clear and to be as accurate as possible, I'm not saying whether they're attractive physically or not. Do they present professionally? Are they sloppy? Or are they coming in ready to work? And I'll still take neat and underdressed because the person might not be from the field. They might not realize that in your agency you guys dress a certain way. That's okay. But sloppy is hard to fix. That's usually more of a habit. And of course, we will have looked at their LinkedIn profiles, definitely. I just had a gentleman that applied for a job in the LinkedIn profile, and the photo's cropped. So it's like they took a rectangular photo, put it in a circle, and the circle edges aren't showing, but you can see the square around it, and that's his LinkedIn photo. Well, that tells me so many things about how he's going to handle everything. That's his best foot forward is, so I don't want that. But so in all of this, y'all are learning, and your team members are learning how to screen. So you get down to 12 Wonderlicks, roughly about maybe 10 interviews, and sometimes it's not even that much. And again, that's not involving you. And as they get better, by the way, these numbers of the 10 interviews and when it gets lower, you're doing a certain number of Kolbe profiles, certain number of interviews on your case, and then you get down to one hire. And basically what you start doing is over time, you get used to this process, And there are certain parts of this that you can delegate right away, the ones in green here. Some of them take a little bit longer to teach the skill of delegating them. And then some of them, like this number 10, you just don't delegate. That's just not something you do. But you now have this plan that's going to help you create a situation where you don't need to have to be part of the day-to-day recruiting in order to have a solid, steady flow of candidates coming through the agency and you being in a situation where you can work with them. And I just want to remind you, just like anything else, I mean, realistically, you don't want to be doing a certain number, any more than a certain number of interviews. But if you want a certain level of team, you kind of have to. And so what this allows you to do is really just align with the reality that if you want to get a certain result, that you have to do a certain amount of, there has to be a certain number, like any other, like a sales process. There has to be a certain amount of activity going on to make this happen. And so there's a worksheet that goes with this that you can work on your own numbers and how you do that. What I want to do is share with you how this then integrates with the rest of what you're looking to do. Because if you now have an idea that this is what you want to do, and now you say, okay, well, Wade, this is what's going to get me, because I've got this goal that I don't want to be working as many days as I've been working. I want to have, again, going right back to the beginning, I want to have a dynasty. I want to have a lot of things happening that don't require me to be part of the process. Well, then in order for that to happen, I have to have a clear sense of what I'm doing on the certain days when I come into the agency. And so when I come in, each of the days I come in, I have a very specific sense of what my role is on that day and what result I need to have that day. So much of what's going on right now, as y'all have seen, is this shift from, and people have been talking about it for years, are you measured off of your results or are you measured off of the amount of time you invest? In our case, of course, we want to be helping people be measured more and more off of results. And especially for people that are working remotely, one of the things that we've learned in the agencies I've worked with is we thought we had a better pulse on whether or not people were getting results in person or not. We assumed that if a person was in the office and we could see them in the office, that meant they must be getting results. Well, there's people that I've seen that work remotely that get far better results than people that work in office. And it's not always the case, but the point is we need to know what the result they need to get. And so therefore, we also need to know what kind of result you need to get. So if you want to have a situation where you have a 4-day work week or less, or working 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week, 16 hours a week, whatever it is, I can tell you, I help run my father's agency in 6 to 8 hours a week. We have a solid team. It did not happen overnight. When I first started, it was about 12 hours a week, and I'm not doing production. In my case, I have a very specific role. I'm not licensed with the agency. I do the leadership part, but there's not a whole lot that needs to be done once you get it going. And so what happens with a lot of agency owners and a lot of entrepreneurs in general is when they're working more than 5 days, especially when they're working 60 hours, 70 hours, that sort of stuff. And this even applies to new agents, to trainee agents. I've worked with trainee agents that work 30 hours a week and are in the top 100. And I've worked with trainee agents that are working 50, 60, 70 hours a week and are having strained family relationships, and it's not necessarily getting them better results. The agency owner, the business owner that's working more than necessary, and by the way, not afraid of hard work, just not looking to work harder than necessary, not looking to mow the lawn with a pair of scissors if there's a thing called a lawnmower. So the person who is a 4-day agency owner is more clear about what they need to be doing. So they have a calendar that looks a little bit more like this. First of all, they know, for them at least, that life comes before work. That's why they signed up to be an insurance agency owner. They wanted a renewal business model, a residual income business model, because in their understanding, they wanted the freedom to enjoy life, free time, enjoy things, kids, family, travel, activities, whatever it might be. And they know it's possible to balance those. And it's possible to balance those without even being what some people would call an absentee agent. I'm not advocating that. What I'm advocating is creating a situation where if for you, play is more important than work, and if you look back at your life and say, what are the 20 most important things that have happened in my life that are impactful, you write down those 20 things. If you're like most people, you'll find that anywhere from 80 to 90% of those things happened outside of work. You'll say, okay, great. So then life, a lot of what happens in life, as much as I love work and as much as you might too, a lot of it really happens outside of work. So we say, okay, what we're going to do, and this is a book that relates to that, and that actually there's a link to that in the comments that you can get access to it. But you have to know that there's 4 things you need to be doing. Number 1, you need to have a certain level of retention and low lapse rate. And so in this case, a 15% lapse rate, which is good, a client stays on average for 6.7 years. A 10% lapse rate means a client stays for 10 years. So it's not just the 3% more, or excuse me, the 5% more of business in 1 year. It's a client that literally stays another almost 50% longer, the difference in those two. So about 50% more renewal income to your agency. Growth rate. Now, granted, sometimes it's harder to be growing. Sometimes, maintaining is success, depending on your market and what's going on. But we need to be growing. You need to be multi-lining. So we talked about multi-line ratio earlier. So we want to make sure that there's anywhere from a 15% to 25% multi-lining. So if for every 100 PNC policies being written a month, that there's anywhere from 15 to 25 life, health, or bank type products or annuities or whatever it might be. And then you want to be constantly upgrading your team. You want to be developing them, helping them grow, helping them evolve. And gosh, 20-something years ago, the average staff turnover rate was every 18 months. From what I'm seeing now, it's probably closer to every 12 months. So if you can, and remember, every time you turn somebody over, you have to retrain again. You have to hire again. You have to, hire the person that didn't work out. It might take you 2 hires. So it's so costly. And yet, if we can develop team members well and do the things we've been talking about today and show them an awesome opportunity, then there's a much likelier case that they're going to do really well with you. And what we're going to do then is say, if these are the 4 things I have to do, what I'm going to do is say, look, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm having fun. Monday, I'm all about retention. And that doesn't mean I'm making the retention calls. That means on Monday, I'm the VP of retention. I'm in the VP of renewal sales. However you want to word that. I'm connecting with the team members about how's our retention process? How are we doing? What can I do better? I'm looking at the numbers, making sure. If I get that done in 2 hours, great, I'm done for the day. Doesn't mean I'm going home, but I could. And by the way, if you really want to get so much out of all you've been listening to today, if you get this, what I'm about to tell you, this is like probably the most important thing, valuable-wise, time and money-wise, all day. If you get this one part right, and if you're like most agency owners where your renewal income is anywhere from 50 to 70 to 80% of your income, if you get Monday right, you don't really have to show up quite so much for Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. If you get Monday wrong, really hard to make up for that. If your lapse rates are really high, for some people, the difference between a young agent and a not so young agent, at least mentality-wise, is the young agent thinks they can outright lapse rate. If you think you can outright lapse rate, or if you're even trying to, God bless you, good for you. Takes a lot of energy, a lot of gray hairs, a lot of fights and arguments with staff and clients and family members. But if you can get that retention down, it's a lot tighter. The second thing is on Tuesday, to say on Tuesday, I'm focused on growing the agency. It might be that I'm doing some activities myself. Maybe I'm going to BNI meetings. Maybe I'm going and meeting people. Maybe I'm taking clients out to lunch, centers of influence. Maybe I'm bringing bagels, donuts, and pizza to centers of influence, to mortgage brokers, to realtors. Or maybe I'm doing that once a quarter, I'm going out and doing that. And then once a month, a team member that comes out with me is doing that same thing. At the end of the day, it's real simple. I can give, if I'm the mortgage broker, or I'm the realtor, or I'm the car dealership, I can give this auto to the person that works for company A that doesn't give me pizza and donuts and bagels, or I can give it to the person that does give me pizza and donuts and bagels. It's a pretty simple conversation. So you could be doing that. You could also be looking at, of course, your processes, your numbers inside your company systems. What's our conversion rate? How many times are we asking? How many quotes? But everything, your VP of acquisition on that day. And again, whenever you get that done to a satisfactory level, this is not an hours thing. This is a results thing. You can go home. The third day, this is probably where you start adding a little more elbow grease, because sometimes you're the main multi-liner. But again, if you did Monday right, you technically don't have to be there on Wednesday. So any week that you're out for the week, things are still okay. Now, you might say, wait, at this stage of my agency, if I'm not selling the multi-line, it doesn't happen as much. Okay, So on Wednesdays, when your multi-line reviews are scheduled, you're looking to get 2 to 4 of them on Wednesdays. You're having your team members sit in with you on them. They're getting to watch you. They're learning from you. They're learning a little bit by osmosis, a little bit by taking in what you're doing. Maybe you're splitting sales with them if they set the appointments or whatever it is. And you're developing team members that way. You're doing that stuff that really can't be delivered elsewhere, that the online places and the call centers can't deliver. And then on Thursday, you're upgrading your team. You're recruiting. Just that old saying, you're not working in your business, you're working on your business. You're learning, you're growing, you're getting coached, you're coaching your team members. And so if you're doing this, if this is what your schedule's like, you don't need to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And technically you could do a little bit of these each day, but I've not found that to be very effective. What I found that to be is something like this. These don't have to be the exact days, but something like this is most effective. And even if you said, Wade, every day of the week at 8:30 in the morning, we're going to have at least, or at 8:45, we're at least going to have a 15-minute meeting. Monday's our retention team meeting. So you know what? The multi-liners and the acquisition people, they're not there for the retention team meeting. Tuesday's our acquisition team meeting. Wednesday's our multi-line team meeting. Thursday is our full team meeting. So again, I can still have team meetings be productive. I don't have my retention team members sitting on my life health training meetings or that sort of stuff. I have that cadence of accountability, that cadence of really training going on. And then all of this is done 1 day per week on any particular week you decide to work. So you don't have to work every week. And pretty soon you start realizing, well, if I do this 4 weeks a month, I'm good. And then you start saying, well, you know what? I'm going to take the 13th week of every quarter off. So now I'm at 4 weeks of paid vacation. And then I'm going to take the 4th week of every month off. And so now I'm just working, I'm working 3 weeks a month times 12 months. I'm working 36 months out of the year, but I'm coming in for 4 days. I'm putting in the work, whatever it is. And I've got all this additional free time, whatever it is. I'm maintaining my relationships. I'm compensating my team members well. I'm treating them well. I'm treating them respectfully. I have all sort of incentives. I'm taking time off. I'm giving them a chance to earn time off. So it's not just, hey, this is all about me. I'm giving everybody this chance. This is how all these pieces come together. And that's setting me up really for the ability to have a week that looks kind of like this, where each day I have just a couple main things that I'm doing. I'm doing these things on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, I'm looking at my reports, my profit, and I'm writing handwritten, let's say, thank you cards or birthday cards to certain people. Maybe it's to all my clients, whatever it is. Again, a lot of this stuff seems like a lot until you say, well, wait, if I had, 2,000 households, and if I'm working 40 weeks, then if I wrote 50 thank you cards, if I just signed, just literally with real pen or said, hope you have a great week, if I did that 50 times on a Monday and it reached my entire agency, would that be so bad? What would that do to lapse rate? Tuesdays, I'm making visits, I'm making outgoing calls, I'm working on my funnels, the conversion rates, that sort of stuff. Wednesday, I'm doing appointments. I'm popping in on my other team members when they just have clients that are in. I'm saying, hey, I'm just popping in and just seeing what's going on. And I'm working on my multi-line sales process. And Thursday, I'm learning so that I'm training team members, I'm recruiting, and I'm constantly upgrading what I'm doing. And so much of this, that might be your list, but if you get clear about what your list, it can make it so much easier and so much more possible for you to have a work life that is more like this, that allows you to really just focus on what you do best. And then as you get best at this, then you can decide, do I want another agency? Do I want to simply work less and enjoy my time? Depending on your age and stage, if you have kids around, you have more time with your kids or more time to visit grandkids. Now that you can work remotely with the technology you have, you can be doing this anywhere. You literally can be anywhere in the world. A lot of times, some of the stuff maybe you won't be able to dial in from remote areas, but again, if your team's in place, you can be. This is what's allowing you to really take advantage of the business model that you signed up for, that is still probably the best steady, consistent, residual income business model on the planet. Any questions on this piece here or anything related to it? All right. And so a couple quick reminders. Reminder that next week, again, we'll have some stuff on the actual sales process, how we go through all the different binder pieces, all the different segments, how we teach that. I'm literally going to teach it to you. I'm going to teach it to you, your team members, whoever decides to come on out. And then at the end, I'll just be saying, hey, if anybody wants help in our sales coaching program that helps do that, great. In this case, of course, today, what I've been doing is showing you what can be done to build an agency and grow an agency and compensate in a certain way. What I want to do now is do two things. I want to show you a basic picture and a more complex picture of what it can look like when you are growing your agency and if you're using the tools that we have to help you make that happen. So some of you already know this, some of you all don't. There's a system we have called the Smart Bonus System. And when we look at getting your team members, and this relates directly to our topic of this now segment, which is getting team members to engage and get and take action and that sort of stuff. A lot of this starts out with a very basic concept that the team member has to know why they're doing it. If they don't see a good enough reason, it's just not going to happen. And so from a very simple standpoint, earlier we looked at this concept of showing team members where they could make a certain amount of money if they performed at different levels. Well, then we have to have something that's actually going to track with them what that would look like. And so what I'm going to do is show you what that can look like for a team member if they're entering their production and how it can help you do things. I'm going to do it very quickly, but put simply, if the team member has already seen what we looked at of this big picture of what they could be earning, and they know their bonus plans, this is a different one, but so they can see, they can go in and take a look at how they're compensated, whatever those percentages and numbers are. We would want them to have some goals and not just say, hey, here's the agency goals, but what is this person's specific goal? So if this is a multi-line expert, they might say, look, these are my goals based on our average premiums of, this is this agency's average premiums. Based on our average premiums and the average percentages I make, here's the production I'd like to do. I could type that in. And towards the bottom of the page, here's the bonuses I would make if I hit these numbers. Now, in fact, I'm going to make this a little bigger because usually we've been looking at some different numbers. And there we go. Well, anyway, so I'd be able to see, here's what's possible if I do these things. Once I've done that, then I would go in and in real time as I'm making sales, I would enter my production. And I'm not going to go too much in the mechanics of the system, just want to make sure. So I'm entering production. Some people say, Wade, you know what? I want my production to be automated. And I'm here to tell you, no, you don't. The reason you don't want your production tracking and bonus calculation to be automated is because every time a team member comes in here, and I'll kind of back into this. When this first one here, they're typing this in. So they type in Adam Anderson and the Mustang. They enter the date written and the date. They enter this information. Right here, there's still no bonus. When they type in that last bit of information, that bonus happens. That is a big deal motivation-wise. That is a cookie. And that's not said disrespectfully. That's not say that team members are just people chasing cookies. When I'm in my software season, when I'm doing coaching, I love to see my cookies. I love to see what I'm doing that's getting results and making income for me. So they get to see that. And as they're doing it, they get to see their payroll being calculated in real time and where that money's coming from, how much of it's from their bonuses, how much of it's because they hit a certain target bonus and they hit level 3 in auto, so they're in $47 more, whatever those bonus amounts are. And then even more importantly, they get to see what's possible. So in this case, let's say at the beginning of the month, and they say, you know what, I haven't written anything yet. Well, what would happen if I was at my next level? If I was at level 1 across the board, I'd make $430 based on the production I've done in the past. And if I hit the top level, I'd make $1,400. So as I go down a little deeper, I'd see, okay, I'm currently either have whatever their current level of production is would be here, or if they hadn't done anything yet, it'd show them this. I'd say here at your first level, here's where you'd be doing 18 auto and you'd make $100. At your max level, you'd be doing 30 auto, you'd make $237. So it's showing them what that next level is. And then finally, it would then show them the questions that you would connect with them every week to say, hey, what's working for you? What's not working for you? What are your goals for this week? How can we improve? And what support do you need from me? And just with that little bit of information, they could get a little bit extra feedback. They could kind of see where they are, policies, premium, that sort of stuff. But for the most part, with that information, they could know what they're doing. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the month, they'd know, okay, to finish strong, here's what I have to sell. And then on a monthly basis, I could still go back in and I could look and see, okay, where did my income come from? Where did I make the money from? Well, I made these sort of sales. The sales came from these sources. And then specifically, the money came auto fire life health. Here's where it came from. Here's how much it was initial bonus, target bonus. When your team members can have that level of connection between their actions and their results, that's extremely powerful. So the first level of really tracking bonuses and compensation with team members is helping them see the connection between their results and their bonuses, their rewards. So if they can see that, they can get excited about what they're going to do next. And then you can also have a situation on your side, and I'm going to now go to your view of this. If you're looking at the agency from the agency owner's view, you could look at your reports and you could say, look, this is my overall navigation. I have different reports I can look at from a multi-line standpoint. We talked about multi-line ratio earlier. Here are my different team members. I've got a retention person. I've got a newbie, a retention expert, acquisition newbie, acquisition expert, multi-line newbie, and expert. Here's what they're each doing. Here's the policies, premiums, average premiums. Here's what they're writing. And then I'd also be able to see on a regular basis by person on a given month, in a given time period, what have they done? What have they written? What have they issued? And so this alone would allow me to get a sense of where we are as an agency, who's doing what, and then even more seeing who's writing what type of business. So if I reach a point where I say, you know what, I'm not sure if this acquisition expert is really doing a whole lot, or this retention expert, or whatever it might be. Well, where's their business coming from? Well, it's a center of influence versus it's a current client that requested it, just walked in the door, or it was a walk-in. So this allows me to know what's going on in my business. And once I know this, it puts me in a situation where it's easier for me then to make decisions about whether or not a person is performing up to par with these standards that we've talked about. So now I can do this from a couple standpoints. I can do this from a standpoint of results only. I can say, look, or to use, again, Stephen Covey's language from 4 Disciplines of Execution, I can say my primary focus is on the lag measures. My primary focus is on, did they get the results? Did they sell the things? And some people say, wait, hey, if the sales are happening, why would I care about anything else? And you can take that approach. And certainly if you're a brand new agent, or if things are working out well enough and the cash flow works and you're managing your agency profit, that might be fine for you. And that might be all you need. So that's kind of a first level of motivating your team members and being on top of what it looks like to make sure that they're making the most out of their activities. And then there's an opportunity to go into even further detail if you wanted with a team member. If they're saying to you, look, I want to understand more than just my sales. I understand why my sales are happening. Now, you might be able to say, hey, you know what, with the company reports, especially if it's more on the P&C side, there's plenty of data that's going to help me look at, how many activities did they do? If a person wants to look deeper, they might need to look at a little more depth. And so if a person wanted to get even more information about what it is that they're doing, and how it's relating to the results or their income, our most powerful version of our system could allow them to dig deeper. And so in addition to what we just looked at on the last section, they could then look at setting certain things. They could create an action plan. So if they've set their goals of what they're going to do with 30 auto and 15 fire and so on, we can say, okay, great, you've got goals. What's your action plan? How are you going to make that happen? Oh, well, you see, to make 10 auto policies happen, I'm going to make these 200 auto calls. There's these different things I'm going to do. And so until you've created an action plan that results in, at least hypothetically, the results you're looking to achieve, you're not done. So if this was my agency, you'd be creating an action plan every single month, and it would change. It wouldn't be you say, I'm going to copy and paste this. The only reason you get to copy and paste it is if it worked. And even then we'd say, okay, can we do better? Not for the sake of trying to be somebody that's driving and never satisfied, but just say, hey, maybe you could do it in less time. Maybe you could do it in a way that's more effective. And then that person could also then set, what are my activity goals? So if I drill a little closer on this, we would say, okay, how many auto sales calls am I going to do in a month? How many fire sales calls? How how many multi-line review calls, how many multi-line review appointments do I want to have, whatever it might be, so I can set my activity goals. And in addition to tracking my sales, I can track my daily activity. I can get into depth as far as on these days I made these number of calls, or whatever the activity is. And I can even get more clear when I'm writing my policy. And again, this is a little more detail. I can start tracking not just when I wrote the policy, I can track when I quoted it. And so I can also look at how many of these quotes came from me doing my daily activities. My auto sales call turned into a quote. And that was with this company. And I scheduled some follow-up dates. Oh, and by the way, accountability. I completed the auto process form that we have for our agency, and I'll show you what that can look like. And I scanned that form, and I put the notes in the computer, and I scheduled my next event. And in fact, if I don't do those things, I don't get my bonus, because I have to do all of those things in order to receive my bonus. So if I don't do those, I don't get my bonus. And so in addition to that, being able to then go more deeply into what is their level of activity, how many calls are they making on a total basis, how many are they making on a weekly average basis. I can look at what is their ratios, what percentage of the time when they quote something, is it turning into a sale? What time is it not turning into a sale? From quotes to written, and then more importantly, quotes to issued, and to help them understand. So if your goal is to issue a certain number of auto, well, you did 30 auto and 20 of them got issued. In order to get your auto goal for the month, you're only closing 2/3 of these. So you'd have to quote 45 of these to hit your goal. So if you don't get to your 45 quotes, this probably isn't happening. So this is where we start getting deeper into that sales activity conversation to get a sense of what is it that generates results, what causes results, and are we making things happen? And when we look at these daily activity ratios, and I could say, okay, sales from daily activities, I've got 15 auto sales from sales calls, and let's say I've got 2 bank sales. Okay, that helps. But more specifically, 15% of the time when I make an auto sales call, it turns into a sale. 10% of the time when I make a bank sales call, it turns into a sale. So again, depending on where you are, this might be more activity than you need. But if you want to reach a level where you're getting deeper, this eventually is something that becomes a tool that can help you do this, to where you can look at and say, you know what, when we do discount reviews, on average, we're finding in the middle here, $171 each time we do it. We're finding $26 worth of discounts, $15 of savings from deductibles. And these are real numbers, by the way, from clients based off of samples. We're finding just a little bit of money from duplicate coverages or dud coverages like cell phone coverage. We're finding $64 a month from credit card debt could be managed better. And we're finding about $63 a month of expenses like long-term cable TV contracts or gym memberships or things they don't need. So we're freeing up $171 a month. That's $2,000 a year when we're doing that. And oh, where is that going? Well, that's turning into sales. That's turning to auto sales, life sales, fire sales, health sales. Here's where they're putting their money. So there's a whole level of depth. And this is what we're going to go more into process-wise next week, of teaching team members to do that and being able to run that sort of a process. And just to be really clear, this is something you evolve to, or you might never evolve to. You might say, Wade, you know what? We're doing well enough with where we're at, and I'm happy with that, so I don't need that. But there's a certain part that can happen in an agency where you're getting a certain level of effectiveness that allows you to run your agency in a way where you're getting the results without a whole lot of you being involved. And usually it happens when your team members are understanding what the processes are. If they don't understand the processes, very often this is not going to happen. And so some of the things that we found that are very critical, there's a few different processes we found that really make this happen on a very consistent basis. So if we go into, let me see something here, make sure I'm hiding or sharing my correct window. I'm going to go to a different window here. So let me stop sharing there. And then I'm going to share a different window here to share with you the the process pieces. Because again, once you start getting this accountability, you start getting the pieces down, it becomes very easy to scale, because you're scaling something that is effective, that's working. And so some of these things you all have seen before. It's not the latest, greatest technology, but actually it's some of the greatest technology. Something as simple as a questionnaire that the client comes in and they share what's important to them, what they'd like to see happen, how they'd like to be served. In this case, this gentleman here, Single Sam, he's one of the guys that, one of our case studies that we work with. He's 23. He doesn't have any dependents or significant others. He wants to make sure he's getting all his available discounts. He wants to make more money, get out of debt, and pay off his student loan. And he's telling us here that he wants to make sure he gets his income if he can't work because of illness or injury. So he wants disability insurance. And that aligns with the fact down here that he doesn't have disability insurance. He wants to pay off his credit cards and get out of debt, which aligns with what he said down here. He recently graduated. He'd like to buy a home or sell a home in 3 years. In his case, it's buy. And so roughly about 50% of your clients, slightly more depending on how you do this, will actually fill this out properly if you give it to them when they come in the office. Some of them won't. Some of them will just put a line down, taken care of or not a priority, whatever it is. But so this is one of the processes that shortens the time it takes to do business with a client, because they do some of the work while they're in the lobby or while the team member's working on an auto. And it helps us help them more quickly, helps us find out what's important to them, and it coordinates with that binder we've talked about. The second thing is when we help a client do a discount review. Over 5 out of 6, over 83% of the clients that completed a questionnaire initially will say that they want to review their discounts. And so we'll review with them. We'll say, okay, here's your discounts on the bottom left. Here's all the things you either might or might not be eligible for. And that helped us find some money. And here's your deductibles. We're going to raise those. That's going to help us find some money. Here are your duplicate coverages, because you told us you brought in your policies that you have with other companies. And we're able to see what is from those other companies that is duplicate. And so we told you, hey, we already have this covered, whatever it might be. Same thing with the dud coverages. We restructured your debt. And so now we can see where you'd put that money. And then as we find the money at the end, we don't go right into, okay, therefore you're going to buy some life insurance. We say, okay, well, hey, if you had money freed up, most people will usually put it to their current lifestyle, their future goals and current debt, or protecting their income, loved ones, and assets, which is what we help you do. What would you like to do with that? And then, because some clients won't respond to that, we want to make sure that every time they're going through an auto policy, and this becomes a requirement, we say every time in our agency that an auto policy is done, we're going to take them through a process. And this can be done on pen and paper. This can be done through Excel with a form we have, where we say, look, as the client comes in, some of these questions we're already asking. So we're asking them this, and the questions with the white boxes, we're already asking, how much liability coverage do you want? From auto accidents, well, X amount. Okay, but this next question, what about liability or injury from something other than an automobile accident? Well, I'd like $1 million. Okay, so we know that's a liability umbrella. We're not going to try to sell it right away, but we're going to make a note of that. What about loss of income due to an injury from an automobile accident? I'd want this amount. And many states, our state, has loss of income provisions, and even uninsured motorist still has a possibility of that. What about loss of income from something other than an automobile accident? Disability insurance. Ooh, I'd want to make sure I had that. So as we're going down the page, we're asking these questions. We are not pivoting to the sale. We're just asking these questions to be thorough. And so we ask, what other vehicles might you have that maybe aren't covered? Rideshare losses, death benefit protection, all these different things. Do you want your car loan or car lease payment made if you can't work? And then at the end, we just ask, hey, would you like to discuss these things in these blue boxes? You've said they're important to you, but they're not covered by the auto policy. Would you like to talk to somebody about those? Yes, no, maybe. Any of those answers are fine, but this allows us to be part of our process. And in my case, the team member does not get their bonus if they didn't answer these questions and complete this. It also covers us from a liability standpoint later when the client says that they actually did these things, but they didn't. And in our case here, we have the same thing from a fire policy. And what we can do here is we can go into, again, liability umbrella, flood coverage, business pursuits, mortgage disability, mortgage life, all these different questions to make sure they're covered, make sure we're getting all the areas that might come up for personal articles policy. And then there's a second page, which is not shown here, that has a list of all the endorsements. And you can just use it as a checklist and make sure your team members are getting to all the endorsements they need to be doing. So what we're really looking to do is make sure that we are being completely thorough. We're doing everything that the client needs in our reviews. You're getting everything you're paying for. And the best way I can describe it to you is to a team member who's an adult who wants to get great results. This is annoying. It's like you're stalking them. They can't stand it. Why are you bothering me? And to the team member who wants to get results, this is one of the most awesome things because you're helping them get to a different level of result. You're helping them create these different things. And that's what this is really about from your perspective, to be able to help them create a situation where they're able to get these results. They're able to make this happen without you having to be, really constantly trying to push and make sure that he's doing these things all the time. All right, so what I want to do is, as we get ready to wrap up, is a couple things. First of all, thank you for coming out. Want to make sure you're aware of all the links. So again, on the side, there were some different links, and the links allow you to jump to different parts of just either giveaways or things that I have that can help you. So if you look at the LinkedIn screen, and if you don't get this, again, you can also just simply contact me. But if you look at this, basically, first of all, you have the ability to click on a link that gets you the ebook, The 23 Reasons Most Insurance Agents Can't Create a 3-Day Weekend Lifestyle and How to Fix Them. So that goes into a lot of even further depth on what we've talked about today from an agency management standpoint, and tells you how to do that. There's a link that takes you to the Building a Dynasty worksheet, so you can download that and use that if you like. And then there's also a link if you'd like to schedule a strategy session to talk about your agency and look at how we could possibly help you with what you're doing. All of those different things are possibilities. We will be having recordings of the presentation if you missed any of this that I'll make available to you. Other than that, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below. If you're looking to get started with the bonus system, obviously January is coming up. I still find the best way is to first connect with you and have a strategy session. So I don't usually do these calls to try to close a sale. Hey, if you know what you want to buy the bonus system, go right ahead. It can be done at smartbonussystem.com. Happy to do that. But I still like to make sure you know what you want, and I'm involved in that conversation with you so that you're getting the benefit of the expertise. Some of the expertise around the compensation consulting is included in what we do. So I want to make sure we're helping you with that. So thank you so much for coming out. Again, if there are any questions you have that I've not answered, I'm pulling up my email right now real quick just to make sure I didn't miss any emails that came in. Thank you so much for coming out and being part of this presentation. Again, we're going to be having more next week. If you have any questions on any of this, please let me know. As always, look forward to helping you create the life and the lifestyle you most desire. And in case I'd forgotten one more thing, if you're a person that likes listening to audio content or podcasts, one of the other things that have started just about a couple months ago and about to be adding even more content to it is the Automatic Insurance Agency podcast. And so on that podcast, if you're not familiar with what a podcast is basically a lot of content that's audio-based. In this case, it's audio and video-based. So the Automatic Insurance Agency is the coaching part of what I do in the brand. And so in there, each of these episodes has a little bit of a training. Usually it's like 5 to 10 minutes of different pieces. You can get that information there. Other than that, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate you investing your time with me today. Again, feel free to use the links if you have any questions. If you don't see anything, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, through YouTube if you're watching this through YouTube. Really appreciate you. I hope you, your loved ones, your family are doing well. And as always, I look forward to helping you impact more people and do that in less time, doing what you do best so you can better enjoy your family, your friends, and your life. Thanks so much for coming out. Hope you have an awesome holidays, whether we connect again or not, and have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend.